Hello? I done it again. I
I
didn't
was kind of,
know.
I thought you were waiting until Stephen done that.
Aye. So, well, I kind of was. Aye. Listen, how we doing? Welcome along to a rewind episode tonight where we'll be covering the Invincible Treble season, Rodgers' first season, season 2016-17. And we're joined tonight by Francis, as you can see, and our very own Stephen. How we doing?
All good, all good. But looking forward to another good podcast. Friday night's podcast was excellent. So looking forward to a nice wee rewind. Look back into the archives of Brendan Rodgers, the Celtic, obviously the second coming of the man himself. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be quite fun as well. So I'm looking forward to it.
Francis?
I'm looking forward to it as well, Ross. I've just finally managed to get round to watching or finally finished Friday podcast just about 4 hours ago. It dragged on a bit. It was a typical Ross Friday one, but I'm busy to go on and just kind of de-stress a wee bit. The bathroom's been getting done every weekend. It's obviously still not done, and the house is alright. I've not even had a shower.
Here comes the money. Here comes.
I was hearing it's looking lovely. All the wee black fittings, etc.
Oh, not expenses spared. Not expenses
That's it,
spared.
kid. That's it.
I've got a mirror above the toilet and I can see myself when I pee and that.
Did you get one of them toilets that wipes your hole when after you do shite?
Oh no, we're not made of money, son.
That's a bidet, kid.
I know. Not made of money. I have to
Anyway,
flush it.
we're going off on a tangent again. We've not even started. I actually feel like I never had a weekend. I feel like I'm just off Friday night's pod and here I'm on again, hosting again. We were on for ages. It was actually ridiculous. 2.5 hours. But listen, me and Stephen had a good time. Oh, well, I certainly did. Apart from probably the last 10 minutes where I was ready to explode. I needed the toilet so much. But apart from that, listen, we'll get into it. Before we get started, we'll touch on our show sponsors who this time aren't on the screen. I've checked and double checked. I didn't see it on Friday, but I'm definitely not seeing it tonight. But I'll just kid on there. Sharna, our show sponsors, 10% discount, some lovely gear, cracking clothes. Get yourselves involved with it. I've still not done it yet, but I'm planning on getting a couple of wee t-shirts for going my holidays in September. Looking forward to that. So as I say, just get on it. And before we get started into the actual rewind itself, I want to touch on a wee sombre note. Obviously, Scottish football got some news today that Craig Brown had passed away. Obviously, Craig Brown was the Scotland manager. He took us to a European Championships in '96 and the World Cup in France '98. Probably have to say one of our most successful managers and just one of the game's good guys. Just a genuine guy. I mean, I'm not talking. I didn't know him personally, but when you see him on the television and stuff like that, he was just came across a real genuine guy, a real nice guy. And our thoughts and prayers for the Endless Celts team are with Craig Brown's family and friends. Rest in peace, Craig. Well said, Paul. So we'll get into it. As I said, season 2006. I didn't care if I was going to say 20 or like 2016 or 2016. It was season 2016-17. So we all know how the previous season ended. Ronnie Dyler resigned. We lost the semi-final to Rangers with a penalty shootout. And I think it was a month after Dyler resigned, Brendan Rodgers, who is again our current manager, was appointed on Friday the 20th of May, and 13,000 fans welcomed them inside Parkhead on the Monday. I'll come to you first, Stephen. Just sort of describe your feelings at the time of the appointment. Was it much the same as this time, or was there differences in how you felt? Obviously, he's been away and came back, so there might be, but just to sort of allude to that.
I mean, for me, like getting Brendan Rodgers, I mean, the usual names, Roy Keane, Moisey, all these journeyman managers who've had different jobbers in the EPL, the Championship, League One, all get linked and you're shaking yourself in case a Keno gets it. No, that's no disrespect to Keno, but I think last time Dermot Desmond really lost the rag when we got beat by Rangers in the Cup semi. And although we won the leagues and stuff, and under Ronnie, to be fair, I thought Ronnie was a good manager, and maybe still to this day he's got his moves now to Club Brugge, a top club in Belgium. So he's definitely proven himself since he's been away from Celtic. But yeah, to get Brendan Rodgers at that time was fantastic for us. I mean, I think he was out of football for maybe a year after the Liverpool job, and he was probably looking to get back in. And I think Celtic and him were the perfect fit at that time. And paying him, what was it, £2.2 million, making him the highest paid manager. Ironically, he's the highest paid manager again when he joined. So, in our club's history, I find that quite funny. But my emotions was.
What?
Oh, you're expecting. Did that happen to you? I don't know.
I
don't know.
No.
Cut off, mate.
No.
Totally cut off it.
You're expecting like a, do you know what I mean, like a project manager again, or someone like a Roy Keane coming in, because we know Dermot Desmond's affiliation with him. But yeah, to get him over the line, to get him into the club was fantastic. And I thought for Rangers, when they came back into the league, it kind of squashed any hope that they had that they were going to win anything or even win cups. I mean, their big banners were going for 55, and their managers run about with a loaf on his head, and the fans are run about with loaves on their heads. I mean, so that was the banter years in full swing. And to be fair, sometimes it comes back and it's full force. Like, but when you look at it now, it's like Desmond again was instrumental in getting them into the club. It's like when Desmond gets pissed off, things happen. Do you know what I mean? I'm sitting here holding an orange. But when Desmond gets pissed off,
such a random guy.
Things happen in the boardroom level, and I don't think anyone can compete with what he says, and whatever he says goes. And for us as a support, getting someone like Rodgers in, especially back then, was amazing. Especially after Ronnie. Do you know what I mean? They're not expecting that big jump up to a quality manager like that, but great feeling. And we're going to get into it. It was a great time. And what a time to be a Celtic fan. Probably the most enjoyable moments of my Celtic supporting life was during them seasons.
Well, I can't disagree with that, considering what we went on to do under Rodgers, and then obviously latterly under Lennon. But aye, listen, like you say, we had the bad result against Rangers. Desmond lost the plot, wasn't happy, and just went and got a top manager. I was surprised that we got him. I've said before, the stars aligned for Celtic and Brendan Rodgers. It was the right time. But for Celtic to get, and I know he didn't leave Liverpool in the greatest sort of circumstances. I think he was sacked, if I remember right. But
yeah, he was sacked. Yeah.
I mean, for Celtic to get a manager off the back of Liverpool, I think you only get that, Franny, if the guy is a well-known Celtic supporter, which he obviously was. But just yourself, I know obviously on the Monday that I've spoke about there, you and our pal, Big Jimmy, Stephen McCall, went through and went into the stadium to see him being sort of unveiled. Just talk about that and just your feelings on getting Brendan over the line at that point.
I think you've nailed it, Ross was saying, like, the stars were aligned. Celtic needed Rodgers as much as Rodgers needed a Celtic at the time. It was a way him getting his name back out there, proving that he was a good manager. Like you said, didn't finish so well at Liverpool. Slightly different. I know it didn't finish well at Leicester this season, but I didn't think Rodgers really needed Celtic but maybe Celtic needed a Rodgers this time, in the sense that it's just where we went for Postecoglou. Rodgers' stock, I believe, is still high, but I think him coming back so soon proves everything he said the last time round. Obviously didn't get as much a welcome this time round, but it's probably because there's still some fans that can't admit that he was right in doing what he'd done and gone to Leicester at the time. Or no, it's one of the ones. But going through at the time, I can just remember it was sort of all rushed that they said they were going to open up the stadium and stuff, if memory serves me right. And I think I actually left work early, which doesn't really matter now because I'm not at that company anymore, so it doesn't.
I'm sick.
The conductor, the way
you worked with the council, you always left work early.
This is correct, Ross. This is correct. So I went through and just I don't think I've actually been through to any. I've been through it a couple of times when they unveiled a player and things like that. Not many times right enough, but it's the first time I went through when it was a manager, and it was just the scenes were absolutely absolutely nuts. It was just to see that many fans in the stadium, just for a manager. It showed the level of manager you were getting. And he comes out waving the flag, the scarf and stuff. It's just that I think it showed you that, like as I've been saying, Dermot Desmond went out, was unhappy how things had ended. Ronnie Dyler, fair play to him, won many trophies at Celtic. It just, he knew. I think guys like, unfortunately, Chris Commons, maybe even Scott Brown to an extent, just some of the more experienced players maybe just weren't taking on his sort of his style, his training methods, his diet stuff and that. And it maybe needed a Brendan Rodgers type figure to implement these things. I think Rodgers himself said he inherited a really fit team, and Rodgers put a lot of groundwork in for it. Dyler put a lot of groundwork in for him. So it was unfortunate on hindsight how Dyler left. I mean, at the time when Dyler was here, I was never one of his biggest fans, but it's just one of them. I think it was just unlucky, the wrong manager at the wrong time, really, or the right manager at the wrong time. I think he's gone on to show that he's a decent enough manager, but Rodgers is just an absolute different level. And as we'll get into this season anyway, and this discussion, it showed how competitive the league was or not. To do what he done was just absolutely ridiculous. And I'm as excited as this time round as I was then about him coming in. Different types of excitement, because I think more this time, not that you expect him to win trebles all the time or no, that daft. I think that's a level of how we've got to measure the guy, but just knowing that he's got that capability, and the fact that how he left on not so good terms, so to speak, that he wasn't getting backed and stuff, to think that he's came back knowing that he's probably going to get backed is really exciting as well.
I think it's strange. Like, I'm sorry, Ross.
No,
like, comparing the two arrivals, this may sound a bit controversial, but I don't have the same buzz now as it did in 2016. Obviously, I think me and you discussed it, Ross. It's more business head this time. It's like we're getting down to business. We're getting stuck in. We know what they expect. Where he came in 2016, we were like, wow, we're getting a Premier League manager who nearly won the league, made Swansea play some amazing football, bringing all different players into the team. So, yeah, I 100% would get what you mean, Franny, by two different emotions. And maybe I'm right what you're thinking there, but do you know what I mean? But in my opinion, it's not quite the same buzz. Obviously, I'm happy and I know what's going to happen, but looking back in 2016, it was like a wee boy Christmas. I was like, wow, they were getting some caliber manager. And like,
I mean, that's why I actually asked the question, because I sort of you sort of gauge it, and you know how you feel yourself, and it is different. You total disbelief that we got Brendan Rodgers the last time. It sort of came out the blue from nowhere, and it did a bit this time around as well. But it sort of, as we spoke about on Friday, it was dripped into us a wee bit slowly, and it took a wee while, and you were waiting in tenterhooks. Whereas it all happened very fast the last time, or the time that we're talking about now. But we got him, and we're going to get into the season and talk about like the history that they made that year. And I mean, we're not going to talk about it tonight, but the history they made in the years to follow, quite unbelievable. But I mean, we'll start off a Champions League qualifier. It was on the 12th. The pre-season started on the 12th of July, and that was because we had Champions League qualifiers at the time. Obviously, we don't have them now. But a couple of days after we started back pre-season, we got a certain Mr. Dembele in the door as Rodgers' first signing. I think Celtic had sort of been tracking him before Rodgers had came in. But
I always thought we signed him before Rodgers came in.
No, they didn't actually. No, don't argue with me. I've checked the facts. No, but so we got him in. As I say, Celtic were tracking him beforehand, but similar to probably Thiago Home.
Aye.
I think obviously Celtic were tracking him, but Rodgers has had a look at him and said, "Yep, let's go for it." But did you know much about Dembele beforehand? I know obviously he played at Fulham in that, Franny, but Did you know much about him beforehand? Did you see much of him, and was that a signing that excited you?
It was a signing that excited me, Ross, but it was purely based on what he'd done that season at Fulham. I think he'd scored 19 goals. He was one of the top goal scorers, and I think he's one of the top goal scorers since Mitrovic's turned up anyway for Fulham. And there was a lot of hype for him around him. I think in the January, Tottenham tried to sign him, ironically Spurs.
Mm-hmm.
You think about it, I think tried to sign him for around about 6-7 million. Now I appreciate that's not a lot of money for a Premiership team, but at the time, it's when you're sitting thinking Tottenham only missed out on him, I think, because they wouldn't loan him back to Fulham for the remainder of the season. So to get that guy in for, I think it was 900 grand, I was really excited just because he had a good name about him and he seemed to have a lot of hype in it. It's, for me, although it wasn't a big transfer, it showed a bit of ambition. It showed where it was, for me, it was a bit intense. It was a sought after player and stuff, and I was really excited to see what done. Obviously, it was going to be hard to dislodge Griffiths, who, I think it was the season before he had scored the 40 goals or something. So it was coming into a challenge, and it was not. I mean, we'll get into it, but it was not really up until the Rangers game. I was absolutely sold on Dembele. I think he'd featured every game up until then, but you could see he had bits in him. But that guy went on to be some player. He proved why you track this guy, like you say, Ross. I think we tracked him for a fair few months, maybe even back to the January before he actually came in. It just, the guy was brilliant the whole time he was here. Absolutely brilliant. Like a proper number 9. Like he was, reminded me a bit like Drogba, just how he was just bully boys, and he was just comparison. It was up there, like he would. I don't think it was this season, but it was. I can remember the game where him and Paddy Roberts just held it in the corner flag for about 5 minutes just to waste time near the end of the game. The guy was just a beast, and like we say it all the time, that cliche. He got it. He got Celtic, and I was super excited when we got him, and it turned out to be a brilliant play for us.
I mean, I do like that comparison of Drogba. It's similar styles, obviously. I mean, I know you're not saying he was as good as him. He clearly wasn't. Drogba was
better than him.
Aye. You had Larson in your best 11, though. So
Jesus Christ. Let it go, Ross.
It's not going. It's never going away. But he was a cracking player for us. Much like you, Franny, I hadn't really seen much of him playing, but I heard a lot of good things about him. You read stuff, and then, as you said, Franny, he was a sought-after player. And I think he came up and he done it at Celtic what probably Tottenham thought he was going to do at them, Stephen. What had you seen much of him before he came in the door?
Well, I mean, the first time I became aware of him was January, before he joined us, before the summer transfer window. Obviously, as Franny says, Spurs came in for him quite early on in that window, and it got rejected, as you said, Franny, because they wouldn't loan him back. And I mean, to be fair, like, we'll have to credit Fulham's Youth Academy because they've produced some cracking players. Matt O'Reilly, Paddy Roberts, and then Dembele. It's like a conveyor belt over the last couple of years. And for me, Dembele was the striker we needed. And I know you said there, Franny, about Lee Griffiths and that, but every time I think of Lee Griffiths, it's always when he's spitting fire and he'll score 40 plus. He did that one season, and to be fair, he was fantastic that season for us. But Dembele, even at that young age, at 19, 20, coming into us, was a different level for me. He was a beast. The way he could hold the ball up, he could sprint, he was quick, he could finish with both feet, banging a header every now and then, and even an overhead kick, which we're probably going to come on to as well, Ross. So it was a fantastic bit of business. I think we ended up paying one of them cross-border compensation fees, didn't we? Like, as you said, probably quite low in terms of the transfer fee because he was coming out of contract or things around that. But yeah, cracking signing. And to be fair, I mean, I think maybe it would have been John Park was head of our scouting back then. So to get that on your books and to get that signing made is decent, like, you know what I mean? But I was convinced for ages it was Ronnie that signed him on a pre-contract. I don't know why I was, but fair enough if Rodgers pulled the plug on it and signed him himself. But yeah, Moussa came in, he left, and he went on to Atletico Madrid. He went on to different clubs like at Lyon, and he's just been everywhere he's went. He scored goals, and to be fair, he started at us and banged them in for 2.5 seasons.
Aye. No, it was. I can remember working in a job. I was working late, and it came up. It must have been about, I don't know exact time, but I can remember it just coming up on the yellow ticker tape at the bottom of Sky Sports News, and it came up Celtic had signed Dembele, and I can remember saying to somebody I was working with, just like, this is probably the most excited, even though I hadn't seen him, it's probably the most excited. You know that feeling you get sometimes when you sign somebody that you know that they're going to be a good player. A lot of the time Celtic signing guys like Klamala, for instance, you don't get that buzz or excitement because you're no sure. But with Dembele, I felt, and I can remember saying it was probably the most excited I'd felt about a Celtic signing since probably we signed Chris Commons.
Right.
And that's Chris Commons obviously came in and done really well. I was well aware of him, obviously, because he'd played with Scotland and stuff like that. So that was how I felt at the time. But listen, he came in, and the rest is history, as we say. But moving on, we had pre-season, and we went over to Slovenia, and we had games against. Now, forgive me if I don't say this right. NK Celia. Don't know. Could be right. Could be wrong. Drew 2 each with them. Played Sturm Graz and won 1-0. And then we played another tough one to say, Olympia Ljubljana, I think it is. We won 2-1. And then we had a 0-0 draw against Maribor. That obviously was just before the Champions League qualifiers, but decent Toure, Slovenia. You have to say, a couple of wins. Not any massive teams. Like we always say, you don't take too much out of the pre-season friendlies, whether it's good or bad. But then we come to the infamous Lincoln Red Imps. 1-0 away defeat. A sobering defeat. You have to say. I mean, I never knew then, Stephen, but I never knew you then, sorry. But did you panic like you're renowned for now after that result? Was the toys out the pram, as they say?
Ross, you know me by now. I never overreact. I'm a patient man, Ross. I don't think so. Nah, I mean, after that game, I think come on, you have to be honest here. Everyone would have been raging, getting beat by a team in Gibraltar. So I mean, the biggest thing in their island's a rock, and the stadium is like holds about 2 people, and you're on about a 3G pitch. I get all the different aspects of weather, sticky pitches, and that type of stuff, but there's no way. And I still look at that, and I think it's probably one of, or if not, the most embarrassing result a Scally Stub have ever suffered in European football. And I know they had progress Niederkorn or something, and then Pedro was in ahead shouting at the fans. But honestly, at that point, the pre-season gave me more hope. Obviously, you mentioned that it was a good pre-season. We kind of seen what was happening, and you can maybe allow for a wee slip up, and you were quite confident going to get into the home leg, which had tidied up quite well. But the away leg was just. I remember the TV cameras and all. Just at the start of it, and you looked at it, looked like. Do you ever remember like playing five-a-sides or something? You go to like a university and the floodlights are up, and it gave me that type of feeling. And I was like, oh no, it's going to be one of them nights. And I think Shifty's, did he start that game up top of shit? Did he? Maybe.
Probably. Well, he actually scored the first. He scored the first competitive goal of the Rodgers era. So he might well have played that night. Certainly didn't score the first competitive goal that night.
But it was embarrassing. I felt, honestly, I didn't overreact and be like, do you know what I mean? It's the first game and that, but fucking hell, Lincoln Red Imps, you're never living that down as long as you live. It's embarrassing that we were involved in a result like that.
I mean, it was a shocker. Off the back of it, you know me, I wasn't. Did you have to ask Ross? Okay. You know me, I never totally panic with a bad result, and that was a really bad result. But I just remember saying at the time, well, look at how Gordon Strachan started. He went over to Armida Bratislava and lost 5-0. And
Armida Bratislava are better than Lincoln Red Imps.
Absolutely. I know, I'm not disputing that, but he lost 5-0 over there. And then he came back. We didn't get through, but we won 4-0. And we were very unlucky not to at least get it to extra time that night. But my thinking was, look, it was the first game. Gordon Strachan came in and lost heavily in his first game in a Champions League qualifier, so I wasn't too panicked. And I think Franny, we all felt we could win the return leg. But how did you? I mean, ran about with you for years. You probably told me at the time, but can't mind. Didn't listen to you half the time. But how did you feel after that game?
I think, like I say, I think you were always confident you would overturn the result, Ross. But I know we always say you can't read too much into pre-season, but we were all buzzing with Rodgers in, had a pretty decent pre-season. We'd be excited with like a guy like Dembele coming in and stuff, and then you get to your first competitive game. Ideally, I suppose you maybe would have wanted it at home and stuff, but you end up away from home. But it's against a part-time team over in Gibraltar. I appreciate it as like the 3G or 4G pitch and stuff, but the fact that they're a part-time team, the pitch should have been
fucking good at Scrabble, by the way. Fucking
By the way,
Scrabble and fighting.
Yeah, actually proposed to his wife via Scrabble.
I did actually, aye.
Did you really?
That's right, I did, aye.
He actually, I was going to start talking about that randomly there. Ready to tell the whole story how it happened. Stuff I was there.
I'm such a cutie.
But so you're kind of getting a wee bit excited. It's the first competitive game. You're going up against minnows. Let's say part-time team. It's away from home on a 4G pitch, but it shouldn't have really mattered. And you're sitting there going, nice wee confidence booster here. Maybe not saying you've got to score 7, 8, 9 goals, but you might get a nice 4-5-0 win. Spread the goals a wee bit. Get the guys like if Chief started the strikers, get them off to a flyer and stuff. And it just it was an absolute. I can't even like. I don't even think. Off memory, I don't think we were unlucky to lose 1-0. That was the matter. I'm not saying they should have won 3 or 4 Lincoln Red Imps, but it was. I don't think we really battered them, and they just sneaked it. It was a horrendous game off memory. They got the goal, but I was obviously annoyed for a few days and stuff. Obviously, you're getting a wee bit of slagging off all your Rangers mates and boys for working that because we're all getting at the big I am because Rodgers is in. Then you come up against a wee minnow and get B1-0. They're obviously got to give you a wee bit of stick, so that doesn't help the mood. But
was it the same season they got? No, it wasn't. No, sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say you're always confident. You're always confident you're going to turn it around in the second leg, especially being at Parkhead.
Aye, absolutely. And we duly did. We won 3-0 at home, and we were off and running. And I'm sure we unfurled the. Hi, lads, you get a chance to
I've not had a chance to watch it.
No, I've no, but it's in the pipeline. Wally was telling us it's really good, so I'll definitely be watching that. But I think that the home leg against Lincoln Red Imps, I think we unfurled the league flag that night because we were playing in the International Cup Champions Cup against Leicester, Inter Milan, and Barcelona. So our first game of the season, I can't mind who it was meant to be against, but that was obviously postponed, and that's why we started at Tynecastle. So they unfurled the league flag that night. But we were off and running at long last against the mighty Lincoln Red Imps, who had disposed of a invincible team only a week earlier. But after that, Rodgers made his second signing, and that was Kolo Toure. Franny, I'll come to you. What was your thoughts off the back of that signing?
It was one of the ones that I think he'd worked with him at Liverpool and stuff, so it was maybe just getting a player in for the dressing room that knew he could trust. He'd obviously had to deal with Beaton at centre half against Lincoln Red Imps, so he's maybe thinking, well, it's a guy that will maybe get me through a bit of experience at the back. Like, I mean, you've obviously followed Arsenal for a wee while, Ross, and Toure, far from being a world-class player, but for a period of time, he was brilliant at centre half for Arsenal. So I think it was a bit of that, a bit of experience in at the back and experience in the dressing room, somebody that Rodgers knows he can lean on and maybe influence the dressing room through. So I think it was more it wasn't necessarily just signing Toure just to go into the team and play every week. Obviously, if he performed, he would, but I don't actually think he played many games. But I think a lot of it was based around getting a man he could trust in the dressing room, a bit of experience in the dressing room, and things like that. So it wasn't a signing I was excited about, but it was one I totally understood, Ross.
Aye, I think I'm trying to think what you could maybe liken it to. Because in the end, in terms of on the pitch, it probably didn't work out. He probably played more minutes than the guy I'm going to use an example as an example, James McCarthy. That bring him in. Obviously, he never got a 19-year contract like James McCarthy, but it's similar. Like bring him in. He's an experienced head, a good voice in the dressing room, and Rodgers knew him pretty well for his time at Liverpool. I think it was.
Yeah.
But coming to yourself, Stephen, what did you think of that signing? And did you think it was going to be sort of what we've spoke about, or did you think he was going to be getting a run in the team and he was going to be the main guy at centre back?
I mean, to be fair, like I'm probably going to shock us both, but I thought that signing was a masterstroke by Rodgers. I really did. I think he's what Joe Hart and Aaron Moy are to the squad now, like Toure was back then. I think he came in as the experienced guy, only really there to play a bit part, but really there to boost morale and kind of boost confidence within the team. And every time you've seen a video of celebrations, he was stuck in the middle of it, Kolo, and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, even as well, early on, he's probably helping Scott Brown in that captaincy role, the way Joe Hart helps Cal McGregor, which is publicly known. Yeah, he made it didn't work out in the playing front, but I think for me, if I can find the comment here, Pat said he ended up a morale booster, and that for me was kind of probably the way Brendan Rodgers was looking to this signing, to come in and just be that experienced, know-how player who's been there, played with big clubs and played with big personalities and guide them along. And I think Kolo Toure, when he came in, did an okay job. I know he played against City in the Champions League, and Moussa Gablag, which people think that he cost us.
Excuse me?
Aye, no one is away again.
What is going on?
I don't reckon. What is going on?
What happened?
He just cut it again.
Oh, well, did you hear me?
I heard you saying Moussa Glaba.
Aye, that thing.
Teams is not something you're good at.
But I think for me, it was a good signing at that time. Something we desperately probably needed in the squad. Obviously, to come in and steady the ship, and then Rodgers doing his influence and his coaching and stuff like that. But I liked Kolo when he was there.
Aye, like we've said, he ended up a decent voice in the dressing room. He wasn't great in the pitch, but we signed him, and he obviously came in, but he wasn't quite ready. So we were without him when we went over to Kazakhstan to play in the next qualifier against Astana. YouTube killed you for reading that goal. So. Fuck's sake. We went over to Astana and the sort of second qualifying round for the Champions League, and we had a 1-1 draw. It was a late Lee Griffiths goal. I don't know if you remember it. Paddy Roberts picks it up, gets it on the sort of byline, cuts inside, and then cuts it back to Griffiths, and he just gets it out his feet and curls it into the far corner. It was like sort of last kick of the ball stuff, but obviously you get a draw over there and it sets you up perfectly for the home tie, and at home we win 2-1 to get us through.
Is this against Astana?
Astana, aye. They played them twice. We played them 2 years in a row. We played them 2 years in a row. This is
when did we beat them 5-0?
Surely means Stevens no
was
watched the
falling.
Oh my Jesus!
Doesn't matter anyway. It's fine. I'll talk you through it.
Oh, that's hilarious.
I hope it's not me that's got it wrong, but it wasn't.
Are you sure, man?
No, I'm 100%.
It's the 2016 season.
2016-17.
Yeah.
I put in Celtic via Astana 2016 when I was researching.
Hold on.
And it came up 4-0 at Parkhead, then we got beat.
It was 1-1 over there and 2-1 at Parkhead. Dembele scored. Well, I'll take you through it.
It's got to make sense. Aye. It's got to make sense, because what was confusing me when I was watching it, because the one I watched, Sinclair scored, and I'm like, that can't be right because Sinclair didn't sign by that point. And that's what's
Nah.
confusing me.
Right, so
That's hilarious.
we won 2-1.
Steven's both researched the same game and we're both wrong.
Okay, these are nuggets. Listen, can't get staff, eh? 5. See, there's Anthony. He kens everything. We've established that. Right, so 2-1 victory. Up 1-1 over there. 2-1 victory at home. Griffiths, I'll talk you through it since you haven't got a clue what's happening. Lee Griffiths gets the opener right on half time, and then Ibrahime, I think that's how you say it, Ibrahime or something like that. He equalised just past the hour, and it looks like it's going to extra time. But Mr. Dembele, Ross, you are correct. Cheers, Thomas. You so so Mr. Dembele comes on with about 20 minutes to go, replaces James Forrest, and he gets fouled in the box in the last minute, and we got a penalty, and he coolly slots it home to send us into round 775 of the qualifying. Absolute shambles. I was going to ask your thoughts on the match, but there's absolutely no point. We got through. We won 2-1. Mr. Dembele, I think that was his first goal in the hoops. Ross with the football. That's what happens when you do 5.5 hours of research. Steve's away again.
I know. What is going on with you, Steve?
So anyway, we get through that tie. Dembele gets his first goal for Celtic. I mean, massive pressure on that goal. I'll ask you about that. There's massive pressure on that, Franny. He's 19-year-old. He's just in the door at a massive club and a packed house, desperate to get to the Champions League. Last minute of the game's locked at 2-2, the tie, and Dembele has the confidence to step up and say, "No, I'm taking this," and slots it in. That's quality, and you know you've got a quality player at that point who believes in himself.
I absolutely bang on it. It just shows you the confidence of the guy. It shows you that he is a player and he believes in himself. And it's like we'll see it all the time when a new striker comes in. They're always desperate to get that first goal. You want them to get that goal as early as they can, so they can get off and run it. It gets the monkey off the back, so to speak. And folk could say it's a penalty, it's easy, it's not for open playing, things like that. But when you put it into context, it's to get you into the next round of the qualifiers and stuff. The game's sitting at 2-2. It could go into extra time. I'm saying it could go into extra time. I'm actually thinking because I'm trying to actually work it out. If it would have went into extra time,
it would have. If he hadn't scored, it goes to extra time.
Right, because I had probably resets the run season.
Right.
But it just shows the level of the guy, that how much confidence he actually had in his cell, that he put himself front there, just in the door as well. A lot of senior players in there and things like that probably fancied it more than him and had a bigger say and stuff in the dressing room, and especially if obviously didn't, but if you miss it, it could have. You just don't know what could have happened for a 19-year-old laddie. It says probably taking that penalty off someday. So for him to coolly stick it away, it showed the level of the guy, and it just never looked back after that, I think.
Aye, pretty much. And I mean, you look at guys, Stephen, scoring penalties in the last minute. Everybody thinks Giakoumakis is brilliant, but he missed a penalty in the last minute against Livingston, so he's pish. Moussa.
I think with Moussa Dembele, when I've actually looked back, even on the wrong highlights that we know now, Franny, he pops up with some really good goals in terms of penalty kicks as well. He's really calm for his age, and to be on that kind of stage at the Champions League, and even though it's still technically a qualifier, but you're still a packed out stadium, and he has to deal with that on young shoulders. I thought was excellent from him. And as I said to you previously, he went on to achieve everything at Celtic Football Club in terms of what we could give him. And starting at 19, scoring goals like that, pressure. I mean, you knew then he was going to be a top quality striker.
Aye, and what did he leave for? Was it 20 million?
20 million.
20 million, aye. I mean, you bring him in for, what was it you said, Franny?
I think it was about 900, I think it was reported at
aye.
I mean,
that's Larson
apparently,
business.
Apparently, we missed it in a big windfall for him because he left in a free, so we didn't get the sell on.
He might be back at us. He might come home.
No chance. Remember, he was tweeting snake emojis and that when Rodgers
No,
left.
aye, that's no happening. Aye, he's that it's actually quite fitting that new top's coming out and it's like snakeskin.
No.
But anyway, we're not going to talk about that because just didn't want to talk about it. It's shite. But well, we get through the Champions League after beating Astana 5-0. But
You're
that joke with early heads there.
You should have been clear with your dates.
Well, I was. We're doing the invincible treble season. Anyway, so we get through that tie. Aye, aye, I'm just blaming YouTubes.
Wow.
That was a belter, man. Absolutely outstanding. Anyway, so we part the Champions League. We've got another tie to come before we make the Champions League proper. And we're going to league business. In the morning of the first game, obviously at Tynecastle, Scott Sinclair signs. Sort of come to you first, Stephen. Again, just similar to the other signings. Your reaction to that and how you felt and what you thought he was going to be capable of, or if he was going to be poor.
I mean, for me, Scott Sinclair was an excellent bit of business. His career was kind of going down the toilet at Aston Villa. He was playing left back and he wasn't getting much game time. And obviously, Brendan had him at Swansea and he scored over 20 goals in their promotion season. And then he got a move to Manchester City, which didn't work out. And then he got a couple of little moves here and there. And for what was it, 4 million we got him for? Round about that kind of fee for a guy who was 26, 27. I thought that was brilliant. And you knew fine, right? Like Scott Sinclair always had something about him. Do you know what I mean? When he had confidence, he was a fantastic footballer. And if Rodgers, sometimes you get these managers that bring the best out in certain individuals, and Scott Sinclair gravitated towards him. And coming to Celtic again with Rodgers was intent at signing quality players like that instead of your usual type players. And I just thought, buzzing about that one. And you mentioned you haven't had a feeling similar to Dembele coming in terms of a transfer. I was buzzed up when Scott Sinclair came to us because you seen what he done with Swansea, you seen what he done with Villa when he first went there, and then you kind of knew coming to the Scottish League. And again, it's no disrespect, but we have to get comfy with the foot. We're nowhere near the level of an EPL, do you know what I mean? So he's coming in, he's going to be a winger again, and you're just expecting him to score goals, and he did score goals for fun most of the time.
Listen, I was the same. I was buzzing with that signing. I think obviously had his time at Man City, had a wee bit when you play Ross on FIFA.
Pez, mate, it's Pez.
Obviously he had a bit of a time. He went to Man City, it didn't work out for him, and then injuries, and he couldn't really get a proper run of games. But I knew that obviously, like you said, he worked under Brendan Rodgers. He was outstanding in the playoff final for Swansea. I think he scored 3. And I watched that game and I thought, he's a player. And he went on to obviously play in the Premier League, and then he got his move to Man City. So I knew there was a player in there, Franny. Were you feeling much the same?
I was really excited when we were bringing him, because I think we tracked him. It feels off memory that we were in for him for a wee while. It was sort of don't know if a saga is the right term, but it felt like the transfer went on for a wee while and stuff. It dragged on a wee bit, and sometimes like Rodgers seems to like this. We bring a guy that's got a point to prove and stuff, bring him in, and it was one of the ones, like, I think when you watch Scott Sinclair's career, he's a proper winger in the sense that he's like confidence is massive for him as well. If things aren't going well, he can look a very poor player, but when things are going well, he's flying, and like I'm sure we'll get into it. And he just got off to the absolute perfect start. And similar to Dembele, just what a season he had, and what a player he was for us. I thought the whole time he was here, he looked absolutely classy. Looked head and shoulders above a lot of the league. He looked the player that Man City had signed it, or Man City thought they were signing. I thought he was absolutely superb. And we recently done Rodgers this team against Angie's team. Appreciate guys like Jota and that hadn't been in for a while, but think we were unanimous when we put Sinclair in at left mid and stuff, and I think you would still make a fairly good argument for him even after a couple of seasons in the current team there. I just thought it was really buzzing that we got that one over the line. It seemed the guy that Rodgers wanted, and he proved to be the player that we all thought he was going to be.
Aye, he was a tremendous player for Celtic. I don't think we can argue that. It's that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anybody can disagree with that. But before we get into the Hearts game, I'm looking at it and the clock says 46 minutes. We're not even at the first league game of the season.
Didn't kicked after the season yet.
I think it's going to be another marathon Ross episode. So apologies if everybody can't be there for the whole episode, but I hope you can watch it back. And guys might come in at 12:30 the night who are just finished a night shift or something, catch the last 45 minutes yet. But listen, we appreciate everybody being here. And if you can stick with us, by all means. If you can't, it's cool. But we're going to the Hearts game. On the day, we win 2-1. James Forrest opens the scoring. And I think obviously we'll get to the Sinclair winner. But I think James Forrest's goal gets a bit forgotten about in that game because the way in which Sinclair had just came in and stuff like that.
Yeah.
James Forrest's goal, he picks it up and he just runs at the defence and then he plays a curler into the left-hand corner. Keeper's no chance. Again, full circle. But it's an outstanding finish. I don't know if you remember it or if you maybe YouTubed a Hearts game for the 60s or something. But that's how he scored. But then we come on to, I'll come to you, Stephen, on this. We got 1-0 in 8 minutes, but then a wee while later, I think it was maybe just before half time, Jamie Walker equalised with a penalty.
Mm-hmm.
Brother beaten, couldn't wait to give that penalty. Do you remember it?
Aye.
It was a shocking decision. Absolutely, never a penalty. Eh?
No. Doesn't even touch him. Doesn't even touch him.
No. I mean, to be fair, like, let's be fair here, right? We all know what Brother Beaton is, right? He's sitting in the wee lodges and that with his wee season books and all, and do you know what I mean? So I wasn't really surprised that he gave it. We've seen, do you remember the infamous Ross County? There was an Inverness where the player was like 2 yards away from him and he got a penalty kick. I mean, similar, do you know what I mean? But yeah, Jamie Walker gets the penalty, and a good penalty, he converted it, do you know what I mean? And that's what you have to do in them situations. But I think if you had VAR back then, it wouldn't have been a penalty kick. Not a hope. It would have been chalked off. But we all know what it is, and it still is. And I know we're going to come on to Sinclair, but just to touch upon James Forrest there, Ross, like you said, we have to understand that Rodgers really brung him on 2 or 3 levels, because it looked like he was possibly for the exit door, but he had his best seasons and goal scoring returns under Brendan Rodgers. Do you know what I mean? And we'll have to respect that. And like you said, some of his performances get forgot about because of Roberts, because of Sinclair, different players of that kind of ilk. But yeah, never a penalty kick, but it's something that I've just became used to. I mean, it just became immune to the fact that if anyone goes down from one of our players, it's usually a whistle to the mouth and it's a penalty.
Aye, sometimes they can't get it quick enough. But I mean, I think it says it all, Franny, that Jamie Walker got a retrospective 2-match ban for diving.
Mm-hmm. It's mental.
Mental.
You got a penalty.
Did the goal not be chopped off then?
Well, you can't do that. But I think you're right, Stephen, what you say, that if VAR was in place, I don't even think the Scottish officials could have continued with that decision. But that was that. If that was a pen, then Ross will grow a hairline again. Well, I'm getting it tight tonight. Like, I'm going to go to that Hair 9 in Falkirk, that Lee Miller, and get a toupee and just come back in and prove you wrong. But no, so I think half time it was 1 each. 60 minutes, Sinclair comes on for Armstrong. Franny, the ink's not even dry on the contract yet, and he's already scoring winners. Just sort of talk me through the emotion and the memory of that winner and how you felt that how it kick-started his career. He needed to start like that because of what he'd been through before he came to Celtic.
Like you say, it felt like his career was sort of stalling a bit and stuff before he came out of Celtic, and then he still came in for big money, like we talked about, 4 million there or thereabouts, maybe even slightly more. So there has got to be a lot of scrutiny on him. Obviously, we hold guys to that standard, to a very high standard. Guys like Ryan Kent get away with a lot less, and team superstars and stuff. There's levels to how you actually treat a player and how you judge a player. But it got off to by the way, to quickly touch on Forrest. Like, I think he was brilliant because Rodgers seems to like his wingers cutting in, and it was never really Forrest's game, but he absolutely was brilliant that season cutting. And like I say, that's how he kind of got his goal, cutting in off the wing and curling in. It felt like he'd done that all the time under Rodgers. But I think it was Griffiths that set it up, was it? Then he's like the
Sinclair goal.
The Sinclair goal. It was a wee a great counter attacking goal. And I think it might have even started for Sinclair on the edge of the box, flicking it out to Griffiths. And Griffiths,
I think it was Toure.
Was it Toure?
Aye.
And then like a couple of touches for Griffiths, and he does that wee bit where he slows his run down and just goes again and just whips in an absolutely brilliant cross. And Sinclair maybe doesn't get the cleanest of touches. It gets a good enough touch, which is probably maybe a good thing. He just slots it right in the corner, wheels away, takes all the adulation for the fans, and like I say, it just gets off to the perfect start. His career just in the door. Tynecastle, opening day of the season, away from home, never an easy ground to go to. And it was maybe looking like the game we've got to get off to a wee sticky start, maybe a draw and stuff. And then, like I say, Sinclair just came up with the goods, got his goal, and the guy was just, like, we'll get into it. I dare say we'll be talking about him plenty of times through this podcast. He was flying. He was absolutely brilliant that season for us.
Aye, listen, like I've said, that starting like that and getting that goal so quickly, Stephen, it kick-started him perfectly, and he ended up 25 goals and 50 appearances that season, and he got Player of the Year. Outstanding.
Well deserved. And Scott Sinclair done something that I never seen before in a Celtic shirt. That kind of run from out to in, and then cutting in at the same time and into the box. And Rodgers brought that deal. So, to be fair, like you said, Franny, Lee Griffiths played a vital role in the build-up to that. Do you know what I mean? Slowing down his run and then whipping in an absolute fizzer. Scott Sinclair following it up. You may be called the Dyson Maida touch, just to get it in the back of the net any way you can. And the emotion of his celebration as well. Do you know what I mean? You can't underplay that. He was pulling the shirt, going mental, and coming in from a down season at Aston Villa, get into a high-pressured environment. First game at Tynecastle, all the fans are on top of you. It's one each. They're holding on for a draw. Everett's back's against the wall for them. We're pushing and pushing and pushing. And then eventually we get that breakthrough. And Scott Sinclair was doing that all season long. Do you know what I mean? 20, as you said, 25 goals, making that run. No one could cope with it. It was so alien to the players in our league. You know what I mean? You're up against right backs like Stephen Hamill or whatever, and they've never seen that before. Do you know what I mean? They've never witnessed a player make them runs. They're like, huh? So he does gets in the box and he finishes it like. And yeah, as you said, we're going to be talking about him lots. And to be fair, he deserves it. He was Player of the Year, and you also have to remember the person he was with at that time. Her family was a big Celtic supporting family, so it might have meant that extra bit special for him at that time as well. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, a lot of factors in that, and I never forget the celebration. I just thought it was fantastic, and the support trying to grab him basically into the stands. And can I just say one thing? Monty is busting his balls to have a game of Scrabble with you and Franny, Ross, and then also he wants us to have a game of Scrabble with the Boise bus.
I'm not holding it much for us, like.
Maybe we could do
me, Stephen,
a Scrabble, a live Scrabble tournament.
Be doing it to you, Will and Anthony, then, like, because the spelling for you, Ross and John is terrible.
I'd be right up at the top, like, definitely. No doubt about it. But listen, that was a perfect start for Scott Sinclair, and you could see, like, the pure relief. He just getting off and running. He came up here for a new lease of life, and he got it instantaneously, basically, and he never looked back. But we got over the line. Tynecastle's never an easy place to go. It wasn't easy that day, but we opened up the league campaign with a win. Then we beat St Johnstone away 4-2, sandwiched in between the Hapoel Beersheva games. The home game was a 5-2 win, and we were grateful for that victory because we then went over there and lost 2-0, and it was really nervy. And actually, at 0-0, Craig Gordon saved a penalty. But the main thing was qualification. However, which way you can get it, Stephen, isn't it?
100%. Them Hapoel Beersheva games give me the shits. Like, to be honest, I know we played reasonably well in the 5-2, but going over to Israel, we were on the ropes. What did they finish? Did they 3-1 or something over in Israel, something like that?
They beat us 2-0 over there.
2-0, yeah, sorry. But yeah, they were coming for us, and that's really the first minute, and it was basically backs against the wall sometimes over there. But you're right, they get over the line, and you always remember the celebrations when Tommy Burns jumped on the players, all that type of stuff, just getting into the Champions League, beating Shakhtar Karagandhi, beating, obviously, now Hapoel Beersheva. These teams, by the way, have lots of money. So they spend money like it's no tomorrow, especially for their league and what we can compete with in terms of players and that. But yeah, getting over the line, getting that kind of windfall into the club, the 30 million guaranteed from group stage football. And you have to remember, it led to a record turnover under Rodgers, which we haven't seen before. No, we're projected to hit £112 million in this financial year. But back then, I think it was £102 million we reached under Rodgers, obviously because of the Champions League and that type of stuff. But yeah, brilliant getting into it. And then obviously some tasty games that we're going to talk about, obviously further in the podcast, Ross. But absolutely buzzing that night to hear that final whistle.
Listen, that was some impressive financials knowledge there. I hadn't a clue. That's not my forte. Scrabble and football, that's mine. But Franny, just same to yourself. Obviously, that was us finally back in the Champions. I say finally, it was a 2-year absence, I think. But we got there. Just how did you feel getting back in at the top table?
Oh, buzzer, Ross! It was good just to, like you said, to be dining back at the top table. It gets the juices going. You start imagining, saying, "Oh, you want this team, you want that team." You try predicting the group. It's kind of just gets you feeling all that funny way, like the giddy way. You just get all excited for the Champions League nights and stuff, and just what players could be coming to Parkhead and things like that. Like, obviously we spoke about it last season when the draw was made. Obviously we done the live reaction show to the draw, and you're well wanted Real Madrid just for that glamour time. You just kind of, it's always everybody looks at the Champions League, and like you say, it's the big guns are coming to town, and it's you get the chance to all right, Monty, I just seen that comment too.
That's a nice t-shirt. That's one of the better ones, Franny.
This is one of my better t-shirts too. But it's
actually a polo. But
fucking sorry, fucking got one.
Wank.
Can't I just wear black t-shirts like we're going to a funeral, Stephen?
Mate, I wear black because I'm a tank, right? Let's get over it.
Stephen's dressed in a shadow.
It was just positive to be back in the Champions League. Just excited to see who we're going to get and stuff. It was just, and like as I say, we'll get into it, and we got some tasty ties, and like I said, some decent performances, I suppose. But it was just good to be back in the Champions League, just hearing that music at Parkhead again.
Aye, absolutely. I mean, probably at that time you've qualified. Similar to last season, you're looking for a couple of big names. I know we got Man City, mentioned Gladbach, but you got Barcelona. You maybe weren't as excited because
you always get them.
Because I'm a fan. So do I, Monty. That's why I usually wear black.
You get some laughing. You get some laugh.
Incidentally,
I'm an top batter. I like that.
Yeah. That Corver boy, I didn't hate power cuts. I rig my meter, kid. I'm a spark. I'm like my meter. No power cuts in this household.
You've just basically outed yourself.
Nobody can where I stay.
Fuck's sake. Right, so
for this new bathroom.
Oh, fuck me.
Aye, so I was saying, obviously, it's similar to like last season when we got into the Champions League. You're looking for a couple of big names. We got Man City, a lot of good players playing for them. Not a big name. Mentioned Gladbach, sort of mid-range. Then you get Barcelona, but it's obviously you've played them about a million times in the Champions League, so it's not as exciting. We all wanted, like you said there, Fran, we all wanted Real Madrid last season. We got them. I think going into next season, I know I'm going off topic a wee bit here, but going into next season, I'm not bothered about big glamour ties. I just want something
I
that'll
thought you
give us a
said
chance.
grammar ties.
I did start saying that, and then I stopped myself. But I don't want the big glamour ties now. I want to get a favourable group that will give us the best chance of getting through or getting third place. But
Totally agree.
back to tonight's topic. So obviously we've reached the top table. Part of that for now. Back to league duty. And we followed the qualification with a home victory over Aberdeen. Then it was the first Glasgow derby for Rodgers on the 10th of September on a Saturday at 12 noon. I mean, a perfect time for to have a Celtic Rangers game, in my opinion. It should always be a Saturday. I know for whatever reason they can't do it, but for me it should always be a Saturday, whether it be 12 noon or 3 o'clock. You can just get absolutely minging then and just no need to worry. But or have to put a holiday in. But De Vries was in goal that day. I think that gets forgotten about because we were so good, and we didn't have any. There was no Griffiths, but it was no problem. And we all know by now what happened, Franny. But just sort of an account of the day, and sort of, I think I watched it with you. I think we were maybe in the pub, but just like obviously building up to it because it was the first time we'd played Rangers in the league in a long time. It was quite exciting, you have to say.
Mm-hmm. I know it was all the although Rangers maybe weren't as strong as they had been in previous times we'd played them and stuff. They still had got guys like Senderos, Barton and things like that. And Kenny Miller was back there and things. So they had a decent team on paper and things. And yeah, it was like say hadn't they played them for maybe 4 or 5 seasons in the league anyway. So you were getting all that excited. I can remember being that nervous when, as much as how we touched on it earlier, I was excited about Dembele coming in. I was a wee bit worried that Griffiths wasn't making it. Simply, you just knew what Griffiths would give you in these games. You knew if he had a chance, he made a chance. Griffiths will likely take it. There was still, I don't know if probably was still doubts in my head anyway, if Dembele could handle this fixture. 19-year-old lad, I know we touched on earlier how he took that. Well, I know we touched on earlier how he had the bottle to take that penalty in such a high-profile game, but you do get judged a lot in these games. Barton was classic because we seen him giving it the big I am and stuff, and couldn't even look at Scott Brown in the handshake and stuff like that.
Shut it.
Absolutely brilliant. But Dembele quickly, well, I'll say quickly, I think it was about 20 odd minutes or something before he scored, but Dembele done everything to put the doubts that I had in my head, and I think it was the becoming of the man he got. What's going on here? Oh, the magic cards again. And it just got everything, like it got him the name that demolition. It was, I'll not say the other one, but it just Dembele that day. I nearly said that. I nearly said it, but Dembele. It was absolute, like his first goal, the header, absolute bullet at a header, and then he gets the next one where he puts Senderos on his arse and stuff, cuts inside and has a nice wee shot with outside his foot, and then the third goal, he just absolutely clinical with his left foot and things. It was a great day. I think we went in at half time. Like we were also cruising at 2-0, and I think they got a goal right on half time and stuff. Might have been Kenny Miller that scored that. I think it was either him or Joe Garner. I can't actually remember.
It was Windass.
There we go. Talking piss in it. I could have sworn it was one.
Trying to Google in the wrong game again.
He's done the wrong game, Ross. He's done the wrong game.
I could have sworn it was that.
No,
that Garner ended up in the back of the net. Like, I'm going to check this.
That was another game. That wasn't this game.
No, this was this game. And then obviously Sinclair gets you back, gets you the two goal cushion again just after half time and stuff. So Sinclair pops up in this game like he did in many games, and then Dembele gets his hat trick. Then Stuart Armstrong with a nice finishes rounds up, and that game became a common theme under Rodgers against Rangers. I know he had some closer games, but in the main, we just absolutely battered them the whole time Rodgers was here, and that was a sign of things to come against Rangers under Rodgers.
Aye, it was a tremendous day. I think probably the last time we bet them by such a scoreline was probably under O'Neill. I might be wrong, but probably the 6-2 game, which it was a lot of years in between the two games. But Stephen, obviously, we're talking about this season. We hadn't met at this point. Were you watching the games with your granddad at that point?
What's that? What's that there? Wait there. Oh, apology accepted, Stephen. Apology accepted, Stephen. I accept them by email or text.
He's a dick. Come on. Jesus Christ.
Aye, so were you watching the games with your granddad at that point? I dare say you were. And obviously just talk about the game itself and just your feelings of winning 5-1 against your big rivals.
I always watch the games with my granddad. That's never going to change. Yeah. Like, so that's our thing. But you say you didn't know me, you really did, but you just didn't know it yet. But what I always remember is the tifo. They hung out the flag of war, and it was green, white, and orange. I thought that was absolutely unbelievable to look at and give me goosebumps, give me the shivers and that. And you kind of knew after them talking about, we're going for the 55, the big sing song at Ibrox when they obviously kicked off the league campaign. And do you know what I mean? It's like Wayne's an accent. What I don't like is a lot of misconception that they had they had a poor team. But if you break it down, I mean, they had Philippe Senderos, who played top level football. They had Nico Cranshaw, they had Joey Barton, they had Kenny Miller, an experienced forward, they had Joe Garner, who was doing well in the championship.
Hall
the Barry
McKay as well. Hall of Fame.
Who? Tavernier was there, yeah. So Lee Wallace as well. So they had a decent nucleus of a team. That this conception that we beat nothing is total bullshit, in my opinion. So I mean, we can only beat what's put in front of us, and as Franny said, we did it convincingly well. I mean, I think Griffiths got injured in the lead up in the game, didn't he? And Dembele was the one who was going to play, but the first goal, the header was you heard the net ripple. Oh, it was incredible. And then obviously he scored with the right and left foot, and Sinclair as well. I know they got their consolation goal and stuff, but that day in general was fantastic, and it kind of does put them back in their cage again, didn't it? I mean, we were there to take over. We weren't there to take part or make up the numbers. This was our league. This was our travel. It's going to be how we want to do it, and the stadium was rocking. It was bouncing, and I know we always talk about ticket allocation, and it's a bit of a contentious subject, but I preferred it how it was when it was back then. I mean, it was unbelievable atmospheres, and we just destroyed them. And as Franny said, it became the normal thing. Dembele loved scoring against them. He got his nickname, so he lives up to it every time we play him. He's always tweeting about it and stuff like that. These types of fixtures stick with people for the rest of their lives. You know what I mean? And you can only want to be involved in that. I look at that, but if I was a player, like, wow, could you imagine the feelings you get? I'd probably get sent off the first 10 seconds, just elbowing someone right in the jaw. So I wouldn't see much of it, like, but it's just incredible. And I love the game, and I think me and my granddad lost their voices by the time it was over. Us cheering that much, but yeah, it was incredible, unbelievable.
Aye, that's brilliant. And you sort of said there, obviously we beat Rangers 5-1, and you sort of alluded to the fact that we were doing that all the time. And you said that it's people say that we bet nobody, but in actual, we will all get into it, but in actual fact, we beat Rangers 5-1 that day, and we didn't absolutely hammer them in terms of a scoreline the rest of that season until we beat them at Ibrox in the final Celtic and Rangers game. The other games were actually tight scorelines, albeit Celtic dominated the games, like really dominated the games. Rangers didn't really get a look in, but the scoreline didn't tell you that. They were tighter scorelines than what people would sort of have you believe. But obviously, Joey Barton had came back up. He was put back in his box after all the stuff he was saying he was going to do to Brown. Senderos, as I've spoke about there, he got sent to the shops. And I'll come to you, Franny. Philip Senderos used to play for Arsenal. He was a defender. He was average. He for me, well, Rob Holding would be our Philip Senderos, in my opinion. What we're saying.
I mean, you actually make a very, very valid argument when you actually put it like that. It's a very valid argument, but I think it's just one of the Rob Holding. I think I was on the Rob Holding bandwagon for maybe a day until I had a civilised conversation with yourself at the chapel yesterday. You
only have civilised conversations at the chapel, kid. Let's be honest.
It's all you're allowed today. But it was just, I think at the time I don't know how true the rumours are. I don't know where they've came from. It's nonsense that I've read on Twitter, but as me and Stephen constantly always just we fall for it every time. It could be any Joe Blogs off the street just made up an account yesterday and tweet it, and me and Stephen will fall for it, let's be honest. So there might be absolutely zero truth to the Rob Holding thing, and I think for a wee while I was trying to make a case for it and convincing myself and then tried to put a valid argument against it, but after talking to yourself, like you say yesterday, Ross, I think all the guys got gone from is that hairline, man. He's had a good trip to Turkey. He's had a good holiday in Turkey, that's Thompson.
You can't be running about with a barnet like that, though, when you're absolutely guff.
I know.
But Stephen, I mean, listen, we're not saying he's definitely coming in. It is a rumour. We're going off of what we're actually here to talk about. But do you think he would be a good signing for Celtic?
Absolutely not a chance. He is shite. Honestly, if we spend £8 million on Rob Holding, then we need to literally take Mark Lowell out and just put one on him.
Maybe Lee Congan.
Horrendous.
Maybe Lee Congan.
Lee Congan's back,
oh my God, remember him? Oh, Jesus.
I know.
Oh,
Rodgers, this guy.
Rob Holding, honestly, I'd rather keep Stephen Welsh and not saying something. Rob Holding he's not for me. And I know Rob, he got a good run of the Arsenal first team and blah, 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 but he was terrible. I remember watching highlights and stuff from Match of the Day. Like, honestly, there's people in the Irish League over here that are better on him. He is haunting.
His positional sense is horrific. But listen, that's for another day. We'll part of that. We beat Rangers 5-1 in that game. And I'm just going to read a wee bit of sort of Rodgers, what he said to the players before that game.
Oh, he's put a lot of effort in this.
He reminded the players, I'm going to read this. I wrote this down because I can't remind it. He reminded the players it was the anniversary of Jock Stein's death, and also 5 years to the day of the death of his dad, Malachy. He said, in one of Jock's quotes, he spoke about any football game was about getting the 2 points. Obviously, it was 2 points back then. He said that to the players, for us, it's about getting the 3 points. But when you beat your rivals, it's a wee bit sweeter. And that was the message. But the message was primarily about a guy looking down. What is that?
I've got something stuck in my throat.
Primarily about a guy looking down who set the tone and template for this club. And if he is looking down, make sure we do him proud. Now, listen, you can say what you want about Rodgers. For me, coming away with things like that, Stephen, and I know people will say that he's buttering up the fans and all the rest of it, but he's saying that to the players. Mark, that's 6 points on Scrabble, Monty. You wait to do better than that, kid. But Stephen, saying that to the players and thinking
points for some letters, like.
But saying using that sort of with the players, that's no playing up to the fans. That's a Celtic-minded man talking to your players, in my opinion.
I mean, one thing we all know about every player who plays under Rodgers that they say his man management style is next level. And obviously the speeches and team talks fall into that category as well. And I watched that Tubes golf thing, by the way. If you do watch it, let me know what you think about Tubes and his daughter's relationship and this whole thing. It's weird at points, like, but okay. Brendan Rodgers' daughter I'm on about here. It looks a bit interesting. But yeah, I needed to rephrase that. But Rodgers said he got asked the question by Tubes that what was your best team talks you ever done? I think Rodgers mentioned a semi-final in regards to Celtic, and then the cup final against Aberdeen, which we'll come on to. But me personally, I know Postecoglou, we've seen clips of him and doing all that stuff, but I think Brendan Rodgers takes your emotion to another chemistry level, like, and getting onto that pitch. And he was talking about getting emotional reactions out of players, getting feelings out of players. If you're losing the game, how do you get them reacting in the right way, positive, and all that type of stuff? And he knows how to do it. And I'm not saying that Postecoglou couldn't do something like that, because we all know he could. We've seen differences in the teams and certain games and stuff. But Rodgers, for me, man management style is incredible. And you don't get people like Luis Suarez coming out again and praising him to the highest and stuff when he signed back on for Celtic. And talking about Jock Stein, as you said, it's putting history into the players like we always cry out for. It's letting them know what this means to this club, to play for this club, to wear the shirt for this club and represent the fans who support the club and put the money into the club. So I mean, it's all about representing Celtic Football Club as an institution, and that's what it is. And Rodgers talking about Jock Stein, the most important thing is getting them 2 points, as you said back then. That's all is needed. You win the game. So I mean, you get it over the line, and I think it's incredible. And coming from an Irishman myself, like, and he is a Celtic man, like he's from Carnlough. So I mean, so we all know what it means. And if the players buy into that, it's incredible, because of that feeling you get, the intensity goes up, your emotion goes up, and you're just pumped up for the game.
Aye, and by the way, for me, I think Ange does that perfectly as well, like you've said. And probably in Rodgers' first time, Franny, there wasn't as much. Like, say, for the first League Cup that Ange won, obviously you've seen video footage coming out now, them being in the dressing room. I don't think that was as much of a thing with Rodgers' first term, but I think, just obviously what I've read there, I think the two of them probably are able to do that because they're elite managers, different for, I dare say maybe Neil Lennon could have done it as well, but he's not at that level. But for me, Rodgers, just for me, that says to me that Rodgers is a Celtic man.
I think Rodgers is a Celtic man. He's seen it a few times at Leicester. He was asked about Celtic and never had a bad word to say about them. And like we touched on earlier, him coming back so soon, I reckon he could have got, obviously he was offered the Leeds job, but I think he obviously thinks he's better in that. I believe he's better in the Leeds job currently. Maybe if Leeds were in the Premiership, it might have been a different argument. But there obviously wasn't necessarily Premiership jobs going about at the time. So I think him coming back so soon with his stock still probably pretty high shows that he is a Celtic man. I didn't leave in great terms. More for me, I was just gutted. Obviously, we were losing a top manager at the time when he first left, but like I kind of understood it. I can remember being talking to the apprentice at the time. We both kind of understood why he left. It's Leicester were, but not like flying at the top league, but they were a team that were getting back. The owners were backing them and things like that, and they were a team going and heading in the right direction where a Leicester probably shouldn't be. It was a move that absolutely made sense for him from a professional point of view. I could have stayed and stuck with his heart. Like it's easy for all us to sit and go, we wouldn't have left, but we're never going to be in that position where, and like obviously Tierney still gets some stick for the fans and things like that. It's when somebody's offering you like triple your wages, 4 times your wages to piss off. It's sometimes it doesn't matter what team you support and stuff. It's if you're at your boyhood club and like we say an Arsenal will offer you triple your wages or 4 times your wages, you're on that first flight down there. I don't care who you are. It's a short career, as I keep saying. But I kind of go back to the point with the man manager. I think Postecoglou and Brendan Rodgers are good man managers. Have just got different ways of doing it. Obviously, Brendan Rodgers can touch on his sort of it's not inside not, but he can touch on the Celtic aspect of it. Being a Celtic fan, knows the history of the club for a fan's point of view. So he'll maybe be able to instill that into his players, saying how the fans would be feeling. Whereas Postecoglou didn't have that. He didn't try and pretend to have that or anything. He done it for maybe a more modern way. How people need to be dealt with. Sometimes you need to think of people's emotions, people's mental health, and things like that. Nah, no, yeah. Nobody could afford me. Nobody could afford me. I'm on an 8-year contract.
We've got you tied in, kid.
I know, tied in. But whereas Postecoglou, I think he kind of deals with it in a more modern way. How you've got to kind of deal with the modern person, how emotions and mental health and things, and it kind of touches on like it will always kind of hark back to that one after the 3-0 game, how he said that a lot of the fans came here with maybe their own issues and things like that on their mind, and hopefully for 90 minutes we've allowed them to forget that. Obviously paraphrasing a wee bit, but that was the gist of what he said. So the both of them are good man managers. I dare say Postecoglou had that type of influence inside there in the dressing room and say similar things, but obviously Rodgers a wee different. Obviously you can do it from a fan's point of view that maybe gets the players on board a wee bit more and things like that, lets them know about the fixture. But both of them I think are great man managers. It's just different styles under certain circumstances and things.
High vis base.
High vis base.
I don't know if it's because I'm a Vinny on the late one soon.
I don't know. That's went over my head, that one. But listen, I can't even. I totally lost my. There you go. It's happened again.
We had 122 minutes in the sweep.
Aye, Kenny, unbelievable, man. Aye, so in terms of Ange and Rodgers, I think Rodgers had a brilliant relationship with the fans the first time around this season we're talking about. Every bit as good as the relationship Ange had built up. Obviously, the way Rodgers left, it's not quite, or it's definitely not the same as it was. But I think once Brendan Rodgers starts picking up results, which he absolutely will, domestically as Celtic manager, I think that relationship will slowly be mended, and as he said, we'll see in May. I think by the time May comes, we'll all be back on board. Right, get off my back, Corvo in UFC. Right, anyway, so that was that game. That was that team talk. We move on. Where we at? We got our League Cup campaign. We got our League. Just before the Rangers game, we got our League Cup campaign started in August. Beating Motherwell 5-0, and then the next round we played Alloa, and it took us to quite late on, but we beat them 2-0, 2 late goals, and that set up a semi-final v Rangers in October. Back to league duties. After our 5-1 victory against Rangers, followed 6 league games. 6 league games, 5 wins, 1 draw, 16 goals, 2 against. A dominant run going into a semi-final. Rangers again in this semi-final, as I said, it wasn't a classic by any stretch, but we dominated the game. Was it 2-0?
2-0.
Aye. So just to come to you, Franny, just an account of your memories of that, how that. In fact, was it? It was
Was that
1-0.
1-0?
It was 1-0. It
Aye, it
was
was
1-0.
1-0.
Sorry, aye.
Aye, well, I
Um, aye. Obviously,
I was checking
it was
again to make
I
sure I
know.
got it right.
I had another mind blank, but it was 1-0, and it was a late goal for Dembele. It was the wee back heel flick. Franny, just coming to you, your memories of sort of the match and well, more how it ended in terms of, because as I say, it wasn't a classic, but you get that late goal and you put your rivals to the sword again, if you like.
It was good to, like you say, Ross, get them in a semi-final or a cup. It's always good to put your rivals out the cup. Equally, it's horrendous to get put out the cup, whatever round it is, or off your rivals. So it was one of the games that it wasn't a classic. Off memory, we were fairly dominant and had some chances, and it was just felt like extra time was looming, and you just don't know if you can give that extra couple of yards or something. Fitness might come into it. Obviously, you've played a lot of games. There'd be some European games chucked in there as well, so the fatigue might kick in. You just don't know it and things. But then I just remember it was. Should we watch that again together? I don't know where, probably like in the pub again. I think it was a kind of just a long ball up the top, and then Griffiths kind of gets onto a flick on or something. Or the two players might have actually just totally missed it, but I feel like Dembele jumped up for it for something. Griffiths just with it outside his foot just plays one along, and Dembele just at the front post, that wee back heel, and it was just absolutely bedlam. It was the goal we absolutely deserved in that day, without being absolutely brilliant and peppering the goal and stuff. It was a dominant performance, and it was just Dembele just again in that fixture just coming up trumps. It was just absolutely brilliant. It was a class goal, just absolutely loved it.
As I said, it wasn't a classic, Stephen, by any stretch, but Celtic dominated the game. They had far more possession, as I'd said earlier. The games were tighter in scoreline, but again, Celtic dominated, and Dembele shown his class with that finish.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the illusion that we were beating a team that had nothing about them at that time kind of got put out the window. As you said, there was a lot of tightness, tight games. I know we beat them 5-1 a few times and 4-1 and stuff like that, but the cup semi-finals, we all know one-off games, anything can happen. Do you know what I mean? And for me, winning ugly sometimes is the best way to sign a champions, is getting through a game like that. Stodgy, yes, we dominated, we had chances, but their goalkeeper was saving it, their defence was clearing it. So there was a lot of factors in that match. And like you said, Franny, Griffiths again, like he was at Tynecastle, with the assist for Dembele to get the flick. And what a great bit of improv, like, wasn't it, by him, just to flick it round and get it in the net. What a goal it actually was. And one thing I always remember is the sound of the net ripple again. It just kind of caressed it, and you heard like and then the fans went mental. And again, Dembele just lives up to the hype, doesn't he? He's there, he finishes it, he takes his opportunity really well. And Griffiths, by the way, with a vital role in that. But I think that as well in the cup semi-final, like I said at the start, regardless of who you play, we've played other teams worse than them and we've struggled. Do you know what I mean? It happens. It's the way of these games sometimes. Yeah, we want to beat them 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 or whatever it may be. But I think there's a great point that you made, Ross. Like, yeah, we won 5-1 the first game, but there was a lot of tight games in between that as well. So to win that game and send us into the final of the League Cup, especially for the first part of the season, that gave us a good psychological edge as well. Already beating them twice. We're in a League Cup final against Aberdeen. Please tell me I'm right, isn't it? Or against Aberdeen, because that's where my research was. But yeah, it was fantastic. And again, the atmosphere and the crowd, and I'll go back to the ticket allocation needs to be sorted out. But it was just a good spectacle, and 1-0, the Dembele flick, which we all remember to this day, just incredible.
Aye. I mean, you're talking about the ticket allocation here. Obviously, that was at Hampden, but I get your sentiments. It's like,
yeah, no, again,
a lot of fans. Aye, that's what I mean.
Game.
It's a lot of fans on both sides, and you get that atmosphere at Hampden, similar to what we experienced a couple of times this year. But we get through that game. That was Dembele's 14th goal of the season. He finished the season.
Your research is incredible.
He finished the season with 32 goals. Obviously, he was outstanding. We've sort of alluded to that. We've spoke about it at length throughout the podcast. But Aberdeen away in the final. But we move on then for that part of the League Cup. That game's coming up. I think we played in November. Can't remember, but we'll come to that.
Did you
anyway.
put that in?
Aye.
That's all right.
What's that like?
Oh, somebody was asking when we go live and stuff.
All right. So we've got Aberdeen awaits us, but we part of the League Cup and Champions League campaign gets started. It wasn't a great campaign in terms of amassed points, similar to the one that we just had. It consisted of 0 wins, 3 draws, 3 defeats, and 3 points. And a low in that was the 7-0 defeat in Camp Nou, or Nou Camp, whatever you want to say.
Camp Nou.
Base
Camp
camp.
is good. Base
Like you say
camp. But the highs, you would have to say, was we had the 2 draws v Man City. Mönchengladbach was the other team in the group, but probably the best game out of the campaign was the 3-3 draw at home to Man City. It was the one I enjoyed the most. I would have to say. Would you agree with that? It was probably the most enjoyable game, Stephen.
Mate, do you want me to go and talk about it? Yeah, I mean,
I go for it.
For that game was incredible, wasn't it? The feel of it again. It felt much like, obviously different ways of playing, but back to 2012 again, we beat Barcelona. Although we didn't get the win, but the atmosphere and the music and stuff, the players, and do you know, like for me as well, I think it's amazing. We were the first team to take points off City in their domestic campaign and European campaign, and after actually they played us, they started dropping points because people kind of figured out how to play them. I always remember that back then. And then Brendan Rodgers, he's beat Pep Guardiola, he's beat the best managers in the world. And for me, like the Kieran Tierney goal, what was that like? It was electric, wasn't it? And then the first goal obviously comes in, it hits off Dembele's chest, and it goes in, and they get an equaliser. They get an equaliser, and then we go 2-1 up. Kieran Tierney smacks it in from the left-hand side, albeit deflection, and we pass Bravo in the nets. By the way, Claudio Bravo was honking, wasn't he? He's such a crap keeper.
Nah,
but
he didn't work it.
No, but there obviously Raheem Sterling got a cracking goal for them. He put Craig Gordon and I think it was Sviatchenko on their arse, didn't he? And he just put it underneath him. Who got the other goal? Was it Nolito? Nolito as well.
Melito, aye.
He
Melito
got
or
the goal.
Nolito, was it?
Nolito.
Nolito, aye. Melito was at Inter, wasn't he?
Aye, Melito. And then Dembele with that overhead kick right after half time was insane. Insane. And do you know, I'm going to be bold here, and you may not agree with me. I'm not bashing him or anything here, but if Postecoglou's playing against Man City back then, we lose.
You think?
We lose. 100%.
How's that like?
I think the way
we went gung ho in
that
that game and lost 3 goals.
No, I get that. I get that 100%. But you look at the Real Madrid game, for example, right? We didn't take any of our opportunities. What the difference was in this game was we were more clinical with our attacking, more clinical in the final third with our passing, and then
That's
chances
personnel,
we did get,
not manager.
I know, but the chances we did get, we took, and I think as well the system. You have to bear in mind this as well. We played a 4-2-3-1. It wasn't a 4-3-3. We had Beaton playing. We had tall physical players in there who were kind of combating their midfield at times, keeping them quiet, which is a hard job to do. Do you know what I mean? So it's no slant on Postecoglou, because we all know this. The campaign there last season could have been better. We played some great football, but I think that against Man City, the 2 games, by the way, we would have got done. I think under Postecoglou, I think Rodgers played City perfectly, and as I said to you at the start when Franny was away there, we were the blueprint for other teams to follow and take points off them. So that in itself is amazing. Do you know what I mean? We were the first team, a Scottish team, to take points of a machine like City in that whole season. Incredible.
Listen, you're bang on. I was going to touch on that actually, but well remembered. We did show the whole of England how to play against Man City that night. I don't remember if Man City went on to win the league that year. I think they probably did.
Probably did.
They did. They did.
I think Pep's won the league with them all but one season, possibly.
Yeah.
But
First.
I mean that's by the by. But Franny, just I'll let you come on and just talk about your memories of the game, and you can talk to Stephen about it because I'm needing to go for a wee pee.
Well, my memories of the game is I'm trying to think. I would have just had dinner, no long after a shower,
dinner.
and
Jesus Christ, Ronnie.
and then gone down for the disco. Mate, I was on holiday.
Were
that
you?
game. Aye, and so I was on holiday with the familia. So I never.
Where were you?
That game. Lanzarote, mate. It was decent. Like,
nice.
Nice.
Did you catch up with the game? Did you see the game?
To be honest, I seen the last 20 minutes. I managed to go to the bar of like we're in our complex type thing and asked for the game. They had some random Spanish. They obviously had Atletico Bilbao playing. I just asked for the Celtic Man City game. So the boy fair play. And put it on. I think there was only a few as I'd try to watch it and stuff. But I like you said, got off to an absolutely great start. Obviously the ball, like Dembele's one, is a wee bit fortunate. Kind of hits off him and stuff. And obviously Man City come back. Then Tierney's one as well. We just absolutely rattled that. I don't know how he never got a hole in the net. Dembele's one in the second half. Like Claudio Bravo, like you said, I thought he was good at Barcelona, but maybe he was just good because Barcelona absolutely just ran riot for a wee while over teams like this. Oh, that'd be hilarious.
I'll keep it in the back pocket. I'll see if I have time to do that.
But I think like Dembele, not to take it away from Dembele's goal, but I like said Claudio Bravo he was their barcast in a way. Just probably a good goalkeeper at his previous team, but just came to Man City and he wasn't great.
He was City's the freaks.
I just don't think he covered his selling glory in that goal. Like he just thought it was a good improvisation for them, but it wasn't the cleanest of strikes. Not tried, but I just what I caught back at just in the state, it just looked absolutely pandemonium.
So, Franny,
aye.
When
Rodgers stuck that in, man. Oh, when Rogic scored that goal against Aberdeen, mate. Ross just went absolutely mental, and he's living.
The Scally's Cup final. I mean,
he's just jumped to the Scottish Cup final just to get that wrapped up.
No, Paul told us this, but I think as well with the City game, like you said, Franny. I mean, the goals maybe they weren't the cleanest of strikes in terms of the bellies, but you take them, don't you? Do you know what I mean? You take every bit of luck, every bit of rub of the green you get in that competition, and for me to draw with them twice, home and away, I think that's incredible. And it also shows that to a point we can still compete with English sides. And that for me, I love just being like that to the EPL. Just have a wee swivel. Do you know what I mean?
That Man City team, well, they weren't anywhere near as good as the current Man City team. That's been built up.
You can only play what yours in front of you, Ross.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Good enough to win the Premier League. Do you know what I mean?
Aye. Oh no, Celtic were outstanding that night, and they got a really good result. Albeit Man City were already qualified by the time we played them in the match day 6 at the Etihad, but still a good result to get. We didn't lose to, you have to say, the best team in England over 2 games. But listen, I was only briefly touching on the Champions League. I wasn't wanting to spend too much time in it because it is, after all, the invincible treble we're touching on. But that was part of the season, so I had to speak about it a wee bit. But sort of moving on for the Champions League, back to league again with another 2 victories. That meant we played. What is it?
Wow. By the way, so, incidentally, Man City finished 3rd that season.
Oh, did they?
Aye.
Who won it?
Chelsea. They've been Conte.
Chelsea. Oh, under Conte. Aye, that's right. I had a feeling they hadn't won it, but I just couldn't think of a time when Man City never won.
Did you get the right year?
Well, I put in 2016-17.
Aye.
Oh, okay.
No, you're
That'd be
right
three
enough.
seasons.
Like,
That'd be 3 seasons they never won the league then, won't it? Because
Mm.
they never won. They finished sixth his first season.
finished sixth.
I'm sure Guardiola finished sixth in his first season.
I do.
Get me about the EPL on the day.
Anyway. Okay, anyway, so it was back to league duties. Another 2 victories meant we played 12 in the league, won 11 and drew 1. Going into the start of December, and another ding-dong game, this time at Fir Park, a 4-3 win. I'll come to you, Franny, because I missed your last one.
I will just talk about my holiday because I was actually on holiday in that Man City game.
Oh, my, aye. So in terms of this Motherwell game, it was 4-3. Obviously, it was a ding-dong battle, as I said, to and fro. Was this the type of game that had you believing we could go unbeaten, certainly in the league campaign? Or was it too early to even start talking about that, even though it was December?
No, I think the manner it was. I think maybe if you'd went 3 goals up or something, maybe 4-1, and they got a couple of goals back, you could go, well, I don't think we will go on undefeated, because you could argue that sort of a complacency could kick in and stuff, and a better team might manage to nick a win or something when you're sort of experienced. But the fact that we went down 2, I think we were getting beat 2-0 at half time in the game before before we then obviously got it back to 2-2. Callum McGregor with a great sort of a first goal and stuff, just doing what Callum McGregor seems to be good at now, just grabbing the game by a scruff of the neck and having big moments. Maybe doesn't seem like it at the time and stuff, but it actually has big moments on a game, whether that be like the Postecoglou game at Ibrox, where he just kind of taking that ball on the run and nobody was taking it off him and things. He's had moments where he does things like that, and then obviously you get the equaliser. Paddy Roberts being brave at the back post, just getting the header. But what could have maybe derailed us a wee bit in that game is the fact that I think Motherwell then taking the lead pretty quick after we equalised. It was obviously, we got back in it, you'd think on all momentum's was, but then I think within minutes Motherwell then made it 3-2. But obviously then I think it was Stuart Armstrong that made it 3-3.
Yeah.
A nice wee, a good goal for Paddy Roberts, and Stuart Armstrong kind of just a wee reverse shot, and then Tom Rogic fairly on just, then Tom Rogic sounds a wee bit of a mazy run. Then maybe unlike Tom Rogic scoring a great goal with his right foot and stuff, it seemed to never ever use his right foot, but I used it great that day. And I think the manner of the win, how we fought back from 2-0 down, then fought back for 3-2 after conceding, after getting yourself back in the game. Motherwell then with the sucker punch to make it 3-2, you could sit and go, oh God, we've just got ourselves back in, and they've just went up the park and scored it. It could go the opposite way. Motherwell end up getting a big victory, but the team stuck with it, and managed to not only get back on level terms, but then going to win the game. I think that gave them, although they'd obviously been on a great run, already picked up the league. Had we won the League Cup? I can't remember if the League Cup was early this year or in January later on, but we were obviously in a great run domestically, and I think a victory like that, maybe we're speaking with the benefit of hindsight, but a victory like that can give you the confidence to then go on to say, look, we know if things aren't going our way, we've got it within us to get ourselves back in the game. So for me anyway, it was a sign to say this team have got a lot of fight in it, and it's got to take something special to beat them.
I totally agree with that. I can remember, Stephen, I watched the game, but I was actually painting my living room at the time. I had everything in the middle, but the telly was like still against the wall, so I could watch the game. And I'm painting away, and like obviously 2 down. I was like, getting hell, man, bad enough that I'm painting my living room, then we're 2-0 down. But then, listen, by the time the game had finished, I had down tools. The Celtic team hadn't down tools. They got the result. Like Franny's sort of spoke about there, just how you were throughout the game, up and down, emotion, and just to get that win. How did you feel in terms of looking ahead to the rest of the season, and that start to believe this team was mentally really, really strong?
I mean, me show emotion, never show emotion, guys. Come on. But I remember the Louis Malt scored an absolute chicken dipper that game. It was an absolute belting goal, and refresh my memory today when I watched the highlights as well. But he was on some form for them. He was like their Kenny Van Veen from this season. He was incredible for them that season. I think he got like near 20 goals for them. But as you said, like what I love about Rodgers is his in-game management. Is where you could change the system or change the style to suit how the game's going. And actually, throughout most of my research, like Callum McGregor was vital. He was scoring goals, he was popping up, and as Franny said, he took the game by the scruff of the neck and finished. I think it was a 1-2 into the box, and he took it and he put it past the keeper, which was a good goal. And then, and again, as you said there, they go 3-2 up. I think there was 3 goals in the space of 3 minutes.
Aye.
So 71st, 72nd, 73rd. Obviously, Stuart Armstrong, I got our one round about that time, and then then it was like 3-8, and then Tom Rodgers in the 90th minute, and it's them type of games like that League Cup semi final. It's the market champions, isn't it? Because you have to find a way to win the games. And I remember Tom Rodgers hitting that shot. It didn't even look like it was hard. It just managed to find a way into the back of the net, and it was a tough game. We've had a few weird games against Motherwell at Fair Park like that over recent seasons where they're kind of high scoring. But yeah, emotion wise, I was effing and blind and fucking all sorts of that. And especially when Louis Malt got his 2 goals, like, because I think it was Craig Gordon a goal, wasn't it, at that time? But yeah, we need that. Rodgers, for me, his imprint, his way of changing the game from, like, for example, a different like formation, just to kind of push them up or go to free at the back, make more go forward. I think his in-game management is next level. Like, and that's probably why we won that game. Tom Rodgers, as you said, Franny took the ball, another mazy run, boom, game over. And again, we have the momentum going into these final games coming up to the next part of the season.
Aye, I think you mentioned there how vital Callum McGregor was throughout the season. I think for me, Callum McGregor, Tom Rogic, and Armstrong were as much as you talk
Armstrong.
about. I loved them, man. But as much as you talk about your Dembeles and your Sinclairs, they guys were pivotal in what we went on to do, and no more so in that game. The 3 of them came up with big goals, and eventually we came out on top in a game that we could have lost. And I think probably for me, in my mind, when we were down 2-0, I was thinking we were wanting to keep this unbeaten run going for as long as possible. I'm not saying we thought we were going to go invincible at that point, but you wanted to keep winning. You knew you hadn't lost yet, and it was like you'd obviously like been round and played everybody in the league, and then you were starting again, and you thought this could be a really record-breaking run. And
to be fair, last time you thought we were going to go invincible, we got pumped the next game. So.
Aye, I know. But you wanted to keep it going as long as possible, and to get that win was pretty much outstanding, and it just epitomised the team as a whole that season. But Franny, you'd said there you couldn't mind if the League Cup was before or after that. It was just before that game, actually. Obviously, we had Aberdeen. I was trying, right, there's that much growing in my head. It was Aberdeen. But it was the first trophy of the season up for grabs. No as pivotal psychologically as it is now, you would have to say. Mm-hmm. But it's a final and it's massive. Aberdeen were very defensive on the day, and we ended up winning quite comfortably 3-0. But Stephen, another big game, another Tom Rogic peach. Just recall that goal, the opener.
I mean, to be fair, like Tom Rogic in these games was a maverick. Like, when he turned up for all the big games, and like you said, it was a peach. And obviously you're going into the Scottish Cup final too, and the East final and that, and it kind of sets you underway, doesn't it? With a goal like that, and then obviously I think the Forest got a goal as well. Yeah, James he scored, and he continued his form and
tremendous.
Aye, 100%. And these players, to me, like Rodgers managed to turn Tom Rosick into a 90-minute player. There's my dog going mental here. Here, hold on, go to Franny until this dog comes down.
Aye, well, just obviously talking about Rogic's goal and Forrest's goal, just what Stephen was on about there, Franny, just continue with that.
Tom Rogic's like, it was, I feel like we've been saying it a bit this podcast, he was so pivotal this season, and we'll be talking about him as the podcast goes on. I can just remember
the Mora.
The Mora, it was just such a great finish. How he just picked up on the sort of the edge of the box and just curled it into the far corner. Just how Tom Rogic could do, just crest the ball so well. It was, maybe the Kilmarnock goal aside, obviously a couple of seasons before that, I don't really remember Tom Rogic absolutely lashing a shot, like just pure power. Similar to what Matt O'Reilly does, everything's passed in. I mean, passed in with pace a lot of times, but it always just seems to be very deliberate. It's so accurate, he's striking. I'm saying I don't remember him blasting it. He's one against Motherwell, wasn't really that. It was right fit. It was, we'll let him away, but it was a wee bit of a sort of a swing and a bit of a blast. But
it wasn't a blitter though. Just the same.
Tom Rogic just seemed to always crest it. Like we've said it so many times, he could never get the ball off him. He was never blessed with pace, but nobody could catch him, nobody could get the ball off him. And I just think in that game, it was absolutely brilliant. That goal was good. James Forrest as well. I'm struggling to remember James Forrest know something similar for the others. I'm trying to remember.
He picked it up.
He burst into the box.
Aye. And then
he put it to the far left corner.
Aye.
Yeah.
Aye, that's right. Aye. Just cut it back. But James
He done the wrong game again, Ross.
No, I can remember the first goal. It was just one of the ones I couldn't remember when you were talking. I was like, see when he brought up the game, I was like, he needs to go to Stephen because I've had a mind blank who scored these goals. I was like, because the Dembele
he asked me to recall. He asked me to recall Rodgers. I was like, oh.
Because that's the only goal I could remember because I'm sure it was James Forrest that won a penalty for it.
Yeah, it was.
It was.
That's the only goal I can remember. I was like, when you went to Stephen first, I was like, thank God, because I can't remember who scored the first two. But I can. Forrest and this game was brought. Forrest that season was brought. It really picked up, and obviously, Paddy Roberts was one of the reasons for that. I think it was the first real challenge that Forrest had for his position, and it was just it set, like you said, maybe never set the tone as much as previous seasons, Ross. But it's always good to pick up your first trophy, and it gets the players believing, it gets them that winning spirit and things, and it just helps you kind of maybe if there's not. I know it's early in the season, being November and stuff, but it just helps keeping that momentum going, giving you that wee bit of energy if you're starting to feel it after a sort of a heavy start to the campaign. With, like you said earlier, about 700 qualifiers for the Champions League. The Champions League campaign's kicked off. It's a busy start to the season, so a cup win kind of just helps give the players some energy back and stuff. But it was just good to pick up that first trophy.
Aye, absolutely. It's always good to get the first trophy over the line. Stephen, I'll just come to you and let you describe the James Forrest goal if you want, and then obviously just your feeling in getting that first trophy over the line, and like how you felt about this team at that point.
Well, I mean, going to James Forrest again, like I said there before, my dog went mental. The way his game changed, I think Franny nailed it the first part of the podcast, that his game wasn't really cutting in. It was staying to the wing, maybe firing a ball in or finding himself on the outer side of the box. But the way he took it, and he just drove into the box and left-hand side, bang, it was past Joe Lewis, I believe, in their goal. But it's like, I know you said it's not, like, it doesn't give you the greatest satisfaction or the greatest feeling or because it's the League Cup or whatever, but it's, for me, a psychological tool. So I mean, it's the first step. It's the first silverware's coming back to us, and whoever our nearest challengers are like, fuck, they've already got momentum, and usually that keeps you going, and to close off the league title and close off the treble. we've normalised it over the last couple of years, to be fair. But I mean, for me, like Dembele, as Franny said, he got the penalty kick. He scored it really well. He was good at penalty kicks, by the way. James Forrest won the pen, so he could get a wee assist from that one. But yeah, it was a great game. That was probably how we all felt the Rangers semi-final should have went in terms of the comfortable side of it. But it didn't happen that way in the League Cup final. But it was a comfortable win. Aberdeen shot themselves, and I remember their big defender, it was Anthony O'Connor. He had an absolute terrible time against that James Forrest. Yeah, but
I just remember him absolutely wiping Forrest out for the penalty.
Oh, he cleaned them. He cleaned them. And then you look at their. I mean, I think they had your big man up front. What do you call him? Was it Big Rooney and Cosgrove at the time, and Shea Logan and
possibly
and all them types of players? But they didn't take their chance, and usually that's the tail of it. And Celtic took full control and won the game 3-0, and the first silverware was coming back to us.
Well, that's it. You've summed it up perfectly. It was that's at that point you're thinking we're head and shoulders above everybody. If you didn't know it already, you knew it then. Yeah. But that was Brendan's first trophy and the club's 100th since their first a Scottish Cup in 1892. Stephen will like that we fact there.
I like it. I like it. Here, lick my nose.
For God's sake. But we got that over the line, and as I say, that was our club's 100th trophy. But back to league duties again. After Motherwell, excuse me, we continued our run of wins. Since a draw at Inverness in September, the run was 14 games, 14 wins. Then we went to Ibrox on the 31st of December, which is the New Year derby, albeit it wasn't quite New Year, but we won 2-1, goals for Dembele and Sinclair. Halfway stage, Franny, those two, we've spoke about them already in the podcast, but halfway stage, they two were absolutely ripping the league up, weren't they?
It was just, I think if you'd put money on them being first goal scorer, you'd been won a few quid in that first sort of half of the season. Always remember bet responsibly, people, but I think you would have been up a few quid if you'd put money on them. And I think we watched that game in your living room or something. No, I don't remember being at the pub. But cause I'm sure, was it Kenny Miller that scored for Rangers to put them 1-0 up or something?
I think it was, aye.
Was it one? I don't fucking know.
No, it wasn't Windus. I think it was Kenny Miller.
I think Kenny Miller scored, and you were like, oh, surely it's not got to be them to stop this unbeaten run and take away. Because, like, maybe it started back then, but Rangers now.
I think they went up 1-0.
That's what I'm saying.
Aye.
And that's what I was saying. I mean, like, you didn't want them. Like, you never want it when you're looking to go sort of unbeaten during the season. It's never great if anybody stops it, but you didn't want it to be your biggest rivals. And it maybe started for how Rangers just, their biggest achievements now is stopping Celtic's achievements. So you were kind of starting to get a wee bit worried, but then obviously Dembele scored right on half time, just a corner across, and he just takes one touch and absolutely rifled it with his left foot into the top corner. It was an absolute great finish. And then I can just remember second half, we just absolutely battered on the second half, and you were just waiting on that moment. And then I think it was Griffiths or Roberts played an absolute great ball into Armstrong, and then Armstrong just kind of played it across, and Sinclair just at the back post. In fact, it must have been Roberts because Griffiths was on the bench celebrating. I can remember him warming up now. But it was just Sinclair again, just in at the back post, tapped it in, and it just set us on our way. I think that was a game, in fact, where you're getting bothered here, Stephen. I think that was the game as well, where Dembele and Roberts, mainly Dembele, just kind of wasted about the last 5 minutes, just winning corner after corner, hodding the ball up, and it was just, as much as you hate seeing time wasting, it was brilliant, because it kind of, as much as we said when the Aberdeen game, how we were showing we were the better team, it was proper shown that you were like, we're the boss of this league. We're beating you on the park. We're bigger than you. We're stronger than you. It was a wee bit symbolic a bit from you. I think without proper bullying, I think Dembele bullied their centre half. So it was just showing like I can do what I want here. If I want to turn yous, I'll turn yous, but I don't. I can't be bored with it. I'm just going to sit and waste time here. He's can't do anything about it. It was, I think, maybe psychologically that was a wee one up, and I'm going like doesn't matter. I would battered you earlier on the season. Wasn't so convincing on the League Cup semi-final. Again, you stay in the lead here, but we've called it back, and I'm just on the corner in front of all your fans, and you can't get it off me. Deal with it.
Aye.
It was so good.
I think that was the game that we probably essentially won the league title, Stephen. But much like we spoke about Rogic, Armstrong and McGregor epitomising what they were all about in the Motherwell game, I think Sinclair and Dembele epitomised in that game what they were all about as well.
Sinclair and Dembele turned up for the big games, like, didn't they?
Mm-hmm.
Dembele's goal scoring record against them is incredible. Do you know what I mean? And obviously, look at Kolo this season. I think it was 7 games against them or something, but it's still good. And then Sinclair as well, he scored for fun against them. I think what Franny said was right there. We went there, and although it was 2-1, we essentially laid down a marker. We bullied them on their pitch, and Patrick McLaughlin was right there. It probably should have been 4 or 5, and we bullied them. Dembele was holding the ball up and like, come and get it off me. Do you know what I mean? It's not happening. It's just not happening. And the psychological boost as well, getting into obviously the new year and the final kind of marathon sprint or whatever you want to call it to the league title. That's where we possibly won the league. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And again, it goes back to it. Like, we all believe these games were 4-5-1, 6-1, whatever, but 2-1 victories are just as good, in my opinion, as a 5-1 victory. As long as you get in there, get the win, come back home with the 3 points, and then your big players turn up and get the goals, what more can you ask for?
Aye. And sometimes you actually learn more by winning 2-1 than what you do winning 5-0 and you're on total easy street. But like you say, that game for me, it obviously doesn't take it away mathematically, but I think after that you look at it and go, we're the boss here, we're going to win this league, and at a canter. But that victory made it 15 wins and a well-deserved winter break we went into. In honour return, we start our Scottish Cup campaign at Albion Rovers and we win 3-0. What is it?
At Albion Rovers, such a random football.
I know. Other wins included Inverness. We beat 6-0. Watching this in the back from the dog. I mean, that's still light outside. Right. The other wins were a 6-0 win against.
Still lit.
It is. I think it is. It's still light here.
Still a bit of sunlight here, like.
It is. So a 6-0 win against Inverness and a 4-1 victory against St Mirren. That set up another semi-final and another Glasgow derby. There was 6 this season, and I think they only got 1 draw. But another semi-final. It was a 2-0 victory. McGregor and Sinclair this time got the goals. McGregor in 11 minutes. I don't know if you recall it, Stephen.
Wasn't that the one he kind of passed it in the back of the net? Oh, brilliant goal.
Finish,
carpet, grass cutter.
You've been talking about the ball hitting the net, Stephen. That is proper, that one.
Aye. It was a beautiful finish, wasn't it?
Oh, beautiful. It's the way he ran onto it as well. It was technique. Like, he took it and it just fizzed in to the bottom left corner. It was an incredible finish. And as you said, Friendly, the sounds, I know I mentioned that quite a lot, but I love hearing the sounds of different things. But it was incredible. And he just, like you said, Rodgers caresses it. He caressed that and loved it and touched it, and it just went into the net. Unbelievable.
You get that camera angle for behind the goals, and it's right behind it. It's perfect. He just, like you say, he just passes it in, but he gets that wee sort of bend on it. I think he maybe even uses a defender, but Patrick McLaughlin was bang on. He says it was 2-0 going on 5, and it was like all of the games. They were 2-1, 1-0, 2-0 going on 5 and 6. Celtic dominated every game, and Rangers you have to credit them. They managed to stay in the games for as long as possible, but Celtic were always going to come out on top. But Franny, Sinclair sealed it, and we're heading to a showpiece at Hampden with our first treble in 16 years at the forefront of our minds. An exciting prospect, was it no?
I totally, Ross, and I think, like you say, that it was. I think Paddy Roberts must have sat in that game as well and stuff, and it could have been any score, but Sinclair's penalty was class in off the post and stuff. McGregor's goal, how he caressed it in, and to then, like you say, you effectively end your rival's season with that game, similar to what we've done this season in the Scottish Cup final. It was all that he had left to play for was the Scottish Cup, and the fact that you managed to put them out early, or at the last hurdle, so to speak, it's just great. It just sets you up for the final. You've got a great cushion in the league, so if you really wanted to, you can tinker with the team a wee bit to try and keep guys fresh and stuff. But it was just always good to beat your rivals. There's always something a wee bit special beating them in a cup, whether that be the final or any other round. But it's always good to kind of put them to the sword and stuff and get the win. And then, like you say, you've got a final to look forward to in the curtain, so to speak. I can't remember what I was trying to say there, but in the showpiece event of the season.
Aye.
Can I just interrupt here with a wee bit of? I've seen it at the top, but I didn't quite believe it. A Saudi Arabian account with over 500,000 followers on Twitter has tweeted the following: the Japanese Axis Rio Watate, the 25-year-old Scottish Celtic player, is close to Saudi Arabian club Al Ittihad club.
What?
Hatate?
Yeah.
Right.
Just saying. It's tweeted by an account like this.
File that under push. Oh well, I didn't believe the Twitter rumours.
I can make that out too.
It's an absolute
Well, I'm saying that's what is tweeted. Like we say, look.
Well, there you go. Aye. Hopefully, they give us 500 million. We can spend it on the hotel.
Weird move, like no.
On the hotel.
Nah, but coming to yourself, Stephen. We've obviously put Rangers out of the cup. We've ended their season, as Franny said, and you've got that prospect, that exciting prospect. Looking forward to a showpiece final, and as I said, first treble in 16 years on the horizon. How are you feeling?
Incredible, because I vaguely, I would have been, hold on, 4 or 5 when, no, hold on.
Oh,
5.
with the Martin O'Neill treble.
Yeah, so that was vaguely what I can remember, obviously back then. But this would be my first proper. You see everything, you believe it. You live it, you love it. You're cheering for it. You're emotional. So yeah, it was great, because trebles are so. I know we're saying we love getting treble stuff, but you have to understand as well, they were so hard to come by. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't like it was a given every season you were going to get a treble. It's an amazing achievement for any club in European football. It doesn't matter if you're playing in the Welsh League, or you're playing in Saudi Arabia, or you're playing in Belgium, or that type of thing. Do you know what I mean? If you win all the trophies available in your country, that is something that needs to be applauded. You know, it's incredible. You go unbeaten in 2 competitions. You go unbeaten in the league competition, and I know they said that they've done the invincible. They've done 2.0. You know what I mean? The part-time level. We done the full thing. St. Johnson ended more successful than them as that season, so that says it all for me. But we dominated everything about Scottish football then, and we still do. With us packed away another treble, a world record, 8th treble. Come on. And no one talks about it. The quadruple treble, no one talks about it. Any treble we've done, see if any other club done a treble in this country in terms of Scotland, it'd be front page news for weeks. But see, because it's us, no.
It's because we've done that many now, so they don't get excited by it.
They've done it again, but I'll tell you what's more interesting. Rangers beat St Mirren 2-1. They're coming for Celtic. It's mental. Do you know what I mean? And that season, by the way, this run all kicked off from that season. bar one season when we weren't successful, and that's insane to me. I've seen what many trebles now have I seen? 6 trebles.
That's mental.
I know, crazy.
Do you know, it's crazy. And I know you all keep me going and say I don't obviously understand the heartbreak and all, but I do understand that, and I never take them for granted, and I never take anything for granted being in life or being a footballer or stuff like that. So it's an incredible achievement. 6 travels I've seen. Wow.
You summed up your excitement on that day quite well there.
I know.
Aye, no. I'm only kidding you on. No, but you're bang on. But listen, it's back to league duty again. Before that, we'd got to get the title over the line. But even though, try to think where we were at there. No, Ross.
Just beat Rangers.
Just beat Rangers in the semi-final. Aye, in the semi-final of the Cup, aye. I'm lost. It's been a long night.
I feel like it's my best man speech all over again here.
What was your best man speech?
I think it was
just that Ross done nearly now.
Aye, I know. No, that was about late January, I think. So, I mean, it's late January, but the title's nearly won after the Rangers game. 15 straight league wins it was after we beat Rangers, and then obviously I was just beating Ross, take it for there. I know, No, aye, that was it. So we were back to league duty, and the last game had been Rangers before the winter break. That's and it was 15 straight league wins after that. That quickly became 16 at St Johnstone, and it ends up at 22 straight wins before a draw at home to Rangers. Recall that game, it was Clint Hill got a late equaliser, and they celebrated like a win, even though we were only 2 wins away, I think, for 6 in a row at that point. So they celebrate that like a win, but not before Griffiths was denied a Stonewall penalty to win it. I mean, it didn't matter in the grand scheme, but for you, Stephen, I'll come to you, but was that a penalty for you? I thought it was a Stonewaller.
What didn't he get tripped in the box?
Clint Hill. Aye, Clint Hill.
Aye.
Sort of, and he put his foot right across him. He was trying to get the ball, and he put his foot across him, kind of hooked it round him.
Actually used his body really well. Griffiths has used his body really well to get in a strong position.
Aye, he gets in between the ball and the man, eh?
Let's be fair here. We talked about penalties at the start of the podcast, given against us. Come on, when do we ever really get given penalty kicks? Especially against that lad. And it's, again, it epitomises for me that the refereeing standard over in Scotland. It's shambolic. The VAR shambolic, and back then it was probably still on par with how shite it is, even though it hasn't really improved anything, to be honest. But it was a penalty kick. Lee Griffiths was smart. I was trying to remember it in my mind there. Now I do, because he got in front of Clint Hill, didn't he? And then he got took down. Am I recalling that right? I think I am.
Aye.
But
Clint Hill just gets all the wrong side of him.
Yeah, and obviously he got the equaliser. But as you said, in the grand scheme of things, does it matter really? No, because we were winning that league at a canter. But the celebrations, by the way, were wild. Like, I've never seen a club who are supposed to be a big club like that and challenge us celebrate a draw at Celtic Park. And see if that's what they're down to now. Fuck them. Who cares? Let them celebrate a draw. It's incredible that they say, look at us as their biggest rivals and they can't beat us. Do you know what I mean? That's mental to me. Lee Griffiths should have been a penalty kick. We should have probably won the game, in my opinion. It was just one of them games again where they were kind of sitting back a lot and we were trying to take advantage of that, and then they get it up the pitch maybe 2 or 3 times to score once. So one of them smash and grab type scenarios. And yeah, penalty should have been given. We should have won. But as you said, didn't really matter in the end.
I mean, it didn't. But they lost their shit when they scored that goal. They went nuts. And I do understand in any game against your rivals, if you get a late goal to stop them winning, it is enjoyable for any. But for where they were in the league and stuff like that. It was a bit weird how mental they went. The only thing, as I said, the penalty in the grand scheme didn't matter, but this was a perfect season. We were unbeaten. We won the 3 trophies. Had we been given that penalty, the likelihood is we would have scored, and it would have been a whitewash 6 wins out of 6 against Rangers. So sticks a wee bit that for me. But
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
I know, I totally get it. I mean, I was at the game as well, Ross. So, like, where I was sitting, it was the other end for where the penalty was. Oh, well, the non-penalty was, but even for where I was at the opposite end of the ground, you could tell it was a penalty. Like we say, Griffiths is going to stay in a great position to get the shot away. And you can tell by the movement of the ball that if Clint Hill had got in it on it, the ball would have went a totally different direction. But the ball kind of continued to head towards goal, and nobody got to touch it. And like you say, it would have been good to have the whitewash if obviously you've still got to score that penalty, and it turned out a perfect season. I like to say the celebrations were crazy considering how far away we were in the league, and I think the difference in the reaction between the two sets of fans showed where each team was in that moment of time. They celebrated. Like I said, it's great to draw, get a late goal against your rivals in a game. It sometimes feels a wee bit like a win or a wee bit better than a draw anyway to get a result like that. But it would have just been a wee bit special to have that opportunity from the penalty spot. Like we had guys like Sinclair and Dembele and Griffiths still in the park, who all three very clinical in front of goal, very clinical for the penalty spot as well. And I know Martin O'Neill done a whitewash season, but I don't think that was 6 games. I'm fairly confident that wasn't the 6 games. Obviously, you've got to be lucky to kind of face them in both cups. It's the luck of the draw, so to speak. But to have had that opportunity taken away with a poor referee decision, it would have just, not to take anything away for the season. It's never something I've really, really thought about, Ross. But when you actually bring it up there, to think that decision possibly cost us having an absolute it would have been the icing on the cake to beat them every game 6 out of 6. You played them the max amount of times you could play them, and you would have bet them every time, and you're going to win the treble. Is it not to take anything away for that season, but it was disappointing not to get as clear a penalty as you'll ever see.
Aye. But listen, we've grown used to that down the years. It's just part of being a Celtic supporter in Scottish football. But we move on for that. It's a draw, but listen, it's one step closer. We then go on to play Dundee, and we win 2-1, which means we can clinch the title with 8 games to spare. Where it all started, Tynecastle, winning 28 of our 30 fixtures to date. A comfortable 5-0 win. Sinclair got 3, and Armstrong and Roberts got the other 2. Stephen, I don't know if you remember, Sinclair on the day was outstanding. But his opening goal, you talk about that noise in the net. He lashes it past the keeper, and you hear it hitting like the metal, and it's like that ting. It's just a brilliant goal.
I mean, to be fair, like Sinclair was doing that all season, wasn't he? And as you said, in the game itself, 5-0, where it all started, he got the final winner in the 90th minute, and it's like these podcasts do that. 100%, mate. On board with on that one, buddy. But yeah, as you said, it's a strange one for me. Them types of sounds stick in my mind and goes like that. And the clink of the metal.
I mean, they generally are always good goals, but it makes them seem probably a lot better than they actually are, I think.
Oh, mate. 100%.
That was a really good goal, that though.
The fact we went there in party mode, I mean, we went there without the pressure. We knew if we won in style, that's the league titles ours, won 5-0. He gets a hat-trick. Armstrong again, who was vital for us the whole season, still a player I believe we've never really replace because he was an absolute dynamo. I loved him. And then who was the other one? Did you say Roberts?
Roberts.
And he was in out of the team challenging James Forrest, and he gets a goal as well. So yeah, fantastic victory, Ross. Fantastic way to wrap up the league title. And let's be fair, we wrapped up the league title at the wee sister of the Sevco Football Club. So you have to take that one. Do you know what I mean? That's a double victory. We do it there. We rub it in their faces. We celebrate in style. Sinclair with a hat-trick, 25 goals in the season. Incredible.
We've grown accustomed to winning league titles at Tynecastle. We've done it there. Probably there in Tannadice has probably been the most. But Franny, just I don't know if you remember Paddy Roberts' goal. That was the fourth goal. Absolute screamer. Talk about that goal and just your feeling on clinching six in a row.
I see quickly for anybody that is struggling with mental health, we've had it for ages on the bottom of this. Just a couple of numbers, just give them a phone if anybody's struggling. We've had numbers running along this for ages. But I just talking about the goals that Sinclair just, although it wasn't at the end of the season, he kind of almost wrapped up his season perfectly with a hat-trick on title day, so to speak, and stuff. He almost, you could argue, got the ball rolling with his goal at Tynecastle, and kind of wraps it up with the hat-trick at Tynecastle to clinch the league. And Armstrong, who just was Mr. Consistent all season, but I can't remember if this was kind of Paddy Roberts near the end of the season was on a ridiculous run and just seemed to score in every game. I think he went 7 games and scored. And this goal, the fourth goal, was a typical what you thought of Paddy Roberts. Just kind of picked it up in the sort of the edge of the box, a wee dink inside, and just another one that kind of just caressed it, but just absolute top bins in the corner. And it was just, it's always great to win the league. Perfect scenario would be to win it at home and stuff. What we've managed to do, I was going to say recently, we actually won it pretty away from home this season, but
the last twice, I think.
Last twice, but it would be good to do it. But it's always great to win it any time, and to do it in such convincing fashion where you get a big scoreline, games never in doubt and stuff. It just adds to it, and then it just, like I say, it was 6 in a row, another league title, 2 trophies in the bag. We want to look forward to plenty of games left to just keep momentum going. Tinker the team if you want, but just to wrap up 6 in a row in such fashion at Hearts, which is never an easy ground to go to, and just be so dominant. The big players turned up. The guys that had got us through the season had their moment that day, like Sinclair, like Armstrong. It was just it was perfect. It's almost a perfect performance, probably, to actually win a title.
I totally agree with that. That's what I was going to say before I came to you, Stephen. It was a perfect performance. That's how you want to wrap up a title. But just your feeling, obviously, getting 6 in a row over the line with so many games to spare. I think it would have been April time that we actually won it.
I mean, I thought you were going to still speak there.
No,
I mean,
sorry.
The feeling I get 6 in a row, isn't that when the song started? Like 10 in a row, here we go. That's how I was feeling. That's how I was feeling. Obviously, future down the line that didn't happen. But yeah, winning the league, mate, I never get bored of it. I never get bored of it. The league's our bread and butter. The league's what we fry for. I know European football, yes, but we need to win the league first of all to get into European football. So effectively, we'll always need to win our league. And we could win it for the next 20 years, mate, and I'll still sit here with a smile on my face. I'll still be buzzing. I'll still be happy. Because at the end of the day, we're going to be dominating. And that's what we've done throughout the years in Scottish football, ever since the 2000s, right up to now. And to continue that trend going forward is unbelievable. I mean, how you feel in them days? Like, you listen to the players talking, and as you said, Franny, the whole cliche terms, they get it, don't they? In a roundabout way, they get what it means to the fans by the time they move on, and they understand their time at us was special. They'll never really get a club like us again. Do you know what I mean? Like Sinclair, for example, although he experienced the highs of moving to Manchester City, it got low really quickly. He came to us, and you experience what a big club truly is like, what a fan base is like, what it is like to be loved. Thanks, Martin. What it is, what it's like to be loved and be just a legend to the support. You look at Armstrong. I know he went to the Premier League, but he'll never experience what he experienced of us. These are special times for everybody involved at the club. Do you know what I mean? And you have to cherish them. I think Pam said it very early on. We're winning trebles, but you have to cherish every trophy because one day it could collapse and we could end up like them. But for me, I don't want, obviously, I'm just saying the worst case scenario, but love the movement, enjoy the movement, be with your mates, be with your family, have fun, celebrate it. I'm sure we're all doing something different on that day. And as you said, we didn't know each other, but it's an incredible feeling to win leagues. And it's something for me that I look forward to every year. It's the reason why I support this club, isn't it? We want to be successful, want to dominate the landscape of Scottish football, and I firmly believe we're going to continue to do so.
I mean, for me, nothing lasts forever. Football runs in cycles, and Celtic are going through quite a considerably big cycle at the minute, and I don't see the end in sight anytime soon. But you said they are, like, people will say to me, "Oh, do you not get bored winning all the time?" And I'm like, "Well, how can you get bored winning, for one, right? And then two, like, you want Celtic to win. That's the reason you support your team.
Yep.
That's what it's all about. At the end of the season, winning, picking up the silverware. You don't get bored with that. And not only that, if you say, I'm a wee bit bored with Celtic winning, let somebody else win, it's going to be Rangers. I'm not going to sit and watch Rangers winning the league. Do you know what I mean? So no,
but
I do not get bored with it.
It's almost like they expect you to be like, oh, you know what? How about you take it this year? So, no, it doesn't work like that. What?
It never works like that. You want to win every single season. It's a new season. It's a new start. What went before doesn't matter. Now, I know we're obviously doing a rewind and talking about an old season, but in reality, that's what the manager tells the players. That's what the captain tells. That's how the players think. That's the mindset. That was last year. This is now. You didn't get bored with it. But listen, we move on for that. The title's clinched. The players can relax, but not when history beckons.
I thought we were still in pre-season.
we're trying to move it on. We're 2.5 hours here, but the title's clinched. Players can relax, but not when history beckons. 21st century start. Celtic 117. I know, it's incredible, absolutely incredible, outstanding. But that's what it's all about. But as I say, not when history beckons can we relax. 2 more draws and 6 wins, including an emphatic 5-1 victory at Ibrox, and league immortality is sealed. To do that in the league alone is pretty impressive. Would you? Well, I mean, we've sort of alluded to it anyway, Franny, but that is a pretty impressive achievement, even if you're not doing that in the cups.
It's to have that level of consistency throughout the season. Like, it's great to win the league. It shows you've been consistent throughout the season. Like, use this season for argument's sake. Obviously, we were on a great run. It was not until we we obviously lost to St Mirren, but even then, I was going to say,
knows all about that.
like,
don't.
Even if how many games you lose in a season is irrelevant. When you win the league, it shows you, as the league winner, you're the most consistent team in the league throughout the season. To show that level of consistency over, we play 38 games a season and stuff. It's absolutely frightening, especially when seasons like this, when you know you're so far ahead of the competition. It's easy to take your foot off the gas. It's easy to. Wow, was just a random light. What's my neighbours came out? Just a random light came on. I can see it at the back here. Thought they caught me by surprise.
That was daylight coming.
I know, but it was just to have that level of consistency. What joke have I just totally missed?
No, he's just said that's the daylight coming.
Right.
It's been on that bloody long.
To have a level of consistency enough to win a league, regardless, to do that undefeated, it just showed the level of the team, how determined that team to work to set records, to make records, to be a part of history. And well, we will get into it and how they managed to cement that piece of history and how they cemented their names in history.
Aye, Absolutely. And Stephen, just your thoughts on going an entire league campaign unbeaten.
Easy. No, I'm only joking. It's incredible. Do you know what I mean? To do that, you look at Arsenal back in the day in the Premier League, 2004, wasn't it? I believe 2004-05 season.
Aye.
And then obviously we do it. We do our own way, and it's fantastic. And as I said, the people in the media like to spin this like it's the opposition we're playing, or it's like the levels of teams that we're up against. It's not. It isn't anything to do with that. It's the consistency levels that we show them throughout the season, the momentum we played with, the speed, the aggression, the attack of football. Other players scoring 20+ goals: Dembele, Griffiths, Sinclair, Forrest, Tom Rodgers, Stuart Armstrong, Scott Brown was exceptional. So I mean, all these types of players. It's the levels. It's the Brendan Rodgers brought that mentality of a 24-hour athlete, and all the players bought into it. It's not to do with the level of your opposition. It's not to do with the quality of player up against. Because at the end of the day, you can get beaten a one-off game like we've seen this season. That doesn't matter. It's the Motherwell game, for instance. We were 2-1 down, 2-0 down, but we found a way to come back to win that game 4-3. So I mean, you look at the League Cup, nil each for long periods of it. Dembele 1-0. It's the market champions grinding out results week in, week out. No matter if you're in a drawing position, if you're in a losing position, you find a way to win. If you don't win, the next best thing you draw, you keep that unbeaten run going. And we've done it fantastically well. So I hate the spin. It's just the level of the Scottish League. It's not right. You can't say that. We have to beat what's put in front of us, and we did the majority of times. We went unbeaten, and it's an incredible achievement, which again never gets talked about. But there we gay, fucking floozy, invincible season that gets spoke about all the time. So I mean, I'm not saying that in a bad way, but I'm just saying like it gets spoke about all the time as in it's an incredible achievement. Is it balls? So I mean, do it our way and let it come back to us.
Listen, it was an unbelievable achievement. It really was. Like you say, you have to turn up.
Stephen.
You have to
what
turn
did
up.
I say?
You know,
It's all right. Fine. We'll just keep rolling. But no, you have to turn up. Like you say, it doesn't matter who it is you're up against. You have to turn up week in, week out and bring your A game. And Celtic done that. Moving on, the date with Destiny arrives. Saturday, 27th of May, 2017. It would become a landmark date in our unbroken history. An unbeaten domestic treble. Aberdeen again, but not quite as straightforward. But they could be forgiven, given the pressure they must have felt. Stephen, again, I never knew you at the time. I'm guessing you watched it with your granda. Did you watch it, or were you over, or?
I think me and my granda were up in his nephew's house for that game, as far as I can remember. And we're all sitting around. His brother and stuff was watching it with us. Could be crowd of us, but yeah, it was, as you said, like the game itself finished 2-1. Do you know what I mean? I think they took the lead, didn't they? Johnny Hayes, I believe. But it's incredible to even think about what's coming next. Do you know what I mean? And the famous Tom Rodgers goal and all that type of stuff. But yeah, it's insane that we done this. It is invincible, treble, and the goals themselves. And Stuart Armstrong replied back for fairly quickly, and then it was 1 each for most of the game. And you're getting towards that 90th minute. You're like, whoa, what's going on here? Do you know what I mean? And then Big Tom with the dancing feet picks it up on the right hand side of the pitch, drives in, puts it past Joe Lewis with a fantastic finish, and the rain coming down, pulling the shirt again, giving it 90, and just absolutely incredible. And I'm sure, like we all were, we lost our voices that day. Do you know what I mean? And incredible. It was an incredible achievement, incredible way to end the season. And Rodgers done that. We have to remember this. The guy who's come back to us has made that happen and made us believe in that. And ever since that, we've normalised that. It's incredible.
Aye, it was an unbelievable achievement. Franny, I'll come to you. We've spoke about it in this podcast before. We watched it. It was just me and you in my living room. I don't know how we didn't end up with the others. There must have been some reason for it. But listen, we still saw the game. It was brilliant. I mean, Stephen, you've sort of touched on it briefly there. Like you said, Aberdeen went up 1-0 through Johnny Hayes. And then 2 minutes later, Franny, Stuart Armstrong gets an actual peach of a goal when you think it goes through a lot of bodies, but you could have made a lot of money if you'd put a lot of bets on Armstrong outside the box that
Well, he
season.
probably did. He liked a bit. He likes a bit like that.
He likes that type of bet. But then it's one each. Half an hour in, Kieran Tierney gets smashed in the face by Jaden Stockley, I think it is. How he escapes unpunished is baffling.
Oh yes, yeah.
Tierney leaves the pitch with a broken jaw and teeth missing and has to go for emergency dental treatment. But I mean, obviously, Franny, he comes back later on. What did you think of that sort of incident?
It was like I say, I don't know how the boys did on the park, and I think it was 1-1 at the time as well, or
one each.
And it was just obviously. You were maybe thinking, oh no, well, there's one of our most consistent players, one of our better players going off the park. It's not been a dominant performance from Aberdeen are well in this game. They're making it difficult. I think it may have been raining a bit as well, so it wasn't like a perfect summer's day, which generally the cup final is, and that with the sun shining. So there was a lot of pressure riding on the game for the Celtic players because they knew what was there. Everything again for Aberdeen, nothing to loss, where it was everything again for Celtic as well, but everything also to loss where Aberdeen, not saying cup finals are a free hit, but it kind of was. Everybody thought Celtic were going to win it at a canter and stuff, and like Stephen touched on, Johnny Hayes got the goal. Stuart Armstrong, I think his goal was pivotal, just how quick we got it back. It kind of just...
It's mad how many times we've mentioned Stuart Armstrong. He was so vital.
He was so good. He was good that season.
Beautiful hair.
Beautiful song as well. Beautiful song for him. And I just thought the man, like getting the goal back so quick was pivotal.
Vital.
It was vital. It didn't let any sort of seeds you doubt go in. And it's a Kieran Tierney going off, it kind of can set you back. And I think it did for a period of the time in the game to be readjusted, because I don't think we bring on a left back. Can't remember who came on, but I think we brought on. I think we actually changed our shape and maybe went to 3 at the back or something. I feel like we done something mad. It wasn't like or maybe brought like fucking.
I can't remember.
Did they maybe even bring Rodgers on? I can't remember. I can't remember if he started or something. I don't think.
I don't think. I think Rodgers.
I don't think he brought on another left back. I think he might even brought a centre half.
I think Rodgers came on. Rodgers came on, and McGregor went to left back.
It was something weird. And in Aberdeen, I can remember in the second half, had an absolute great chance fairly late on, where I think it was almost like 2-1 or something, and it was just a poor pass, and the Celtic defender at the time managed to kind of cut it out. But for Rodgers to win it in the manner he did, like say, it's, I suppose in an ideal world you'd like to win every game 3-4-0, fairly comfortable, especially finals in that manner where it's similar to like what we've done against Inverness Califistle. Wasn't the greatest showpiece, but it was a comfy win to seal the treble and stuff. But if there's a different way you could win a cup final, it's with an absolutely, well, to score in the last minute of any game's fantastic, and to do it like that, and Rodgers just goes on an absolute amazing run again, just beating 3 or 4 guys, and he just hits it. What's that?
He did. He came. That was what happened. Rodgers came on when Tierney went off. McGregor went into left back.
And I just went on that great run. You just picture it now, just going by one player, the next player, and he just gets to that moment of space and he just hits it underneath the keeper. And then, like Stephen said, wheels away in delight, grabbing the shot. It's just, there's always that iconic picture of Craig Gordon as well, where he's just down on his knees with his hands like that.
Right.
And it's just, the team just knew then. They'll know it's late on in the game and not much time to play for. And I think they'll know as professionals if scoring that goal's probably got to kill. They know it's late in the game, but it's probably got to kill any heart that Aberdeen's got left to try and maybe get a wee goal. And it's just, it was such a great one. Just sealed the immortality and just cemented that team in football. Really, we'll remember them for a long, long time.
Oh, aye. And I'm just, Monty's putting a few comments in there. He's recalling the game really well for a man in his vintage, 51. He's bang on. Aberdeen at 1 each, missed a huge chance. Hayes passed it into Kenny McLean, and it was just behind him. I can always remember the dejection in Kenny McLean's face, because he knew that was our big chance, and we've passed it up, kind of thing. But you sort of built up to the Rogic goal there, Franny. The cracky lightning just as he hits it. All that, the rain pouring down. It was absolutely iconic. Stephen, I'll come to you first. Just sort of an account of that moment in a wee bit more detail, and just to describe your sort of elation that preceded the goal. And that's
well,
it.
as I said, it was squeaky bum time for the whole game, wasn't it? Kenny McLean missed that opportunity. Aberdeen didn't play too bad. Let's be fair. I think they learned from the League Cup final, and obviously their tactics changed and stuff like that. But Tom Rosick, throughout the whole season, we've discussed, he's an absolute maverick. He's turned up in most of the big games and taking that ball deep in his own half. And Paul Dad said there that he wouldn't have made that run if he started. So I kind of get what he means, but he took it and he just kind of glided and just dinked it, kind of like a dink finish over Joe Lewis, and just watching him wheel away in that celebration. As you said, the bolt of lightning, the rain, the celebrations. Obviously, me and my granddad were hugging each other, and it's the emotion, isn't it? Because you know what you've done, you know what you've achieved, and the club's achieved. I'm saying me, but we're watching. But what the players have achieved, what the managers achieved, the backroom staff, and it's incredible. The fans were going mental, and it's just to see the players enjoy that moment, isn't it? Really, it's the joy in their faces, as I alluded to before. None of these players, none of them, are going to experience anything like they did at that moment in time.
Mm-hmm.
When that first treble was achieved unbeaten. It was absolutely incredible, and it's something for me personally I'll never forget. I'm probably, out of all the trebles, that's my favourite.
Aye, listen, I can't disagree with that. As I said earlier, me and Franny watched it together. But similar to Stephen, Franny, just going into a wee bit more detail, an account of how you felt in that moment, the elation, certainly in the goal, and just the celebration afterwards.
What's this?
I love the comments.
Wow.
I love the comments.
Wow.
Brilliant, man.
I can just remember that. So, like we said, he just goes on that run. It's the type of run only Rogic was kind of capable of doing, and you just felt once he kind of got on it, it's almost, you never expected them to score, but you almost expected them to create a chance from it. Anytime he done something like that, and it was the one guy that had that in his locker where he could just glide by players, and like you said, when he stuck it in, it was just, I think the whole team just went absolutely nuts, and the fans went mental. Like you said, the fact that it was raining was fairly iconic as well. Normally, the Scottish Cup final, it's one of the rare days you get a decent day in Scotland, but it was raining. It was just iconic. Craig Corrigan's celebration iconic, and just, I suppose the second best thing to actually being at the games and witnessing is celebrating it with your friends and stuff like that. It's just brilliant. So although it wasn't the bunchers, Ross, it's still great to just be with a guy that I've went to many a games where we had season tickets in that way. Just it's superb, and it's things you'll be able to tell your wains about and things like that. It's as mad as it is. It's like Stephen was touching on earlier. You didn't take these moments for granted. Celtic won a lot of trophies. Certainly in the millennium, we've won tons of trophies, but you just can't get bored that every trophy's got its enemy meaning why about it and stuff, and it's that moment will some live in your memory more than most for what they achieved, but I think that'll live in the memory for a long time.
You doing, Stephen? Aye, no, you're bang on, Franny. I think, well, me and Franny, as I say, we just watched it ourselves for whatever reason together. Don't know why, but we that goal goes in and we do the smallest huddle ever been done in history. We were basically doing ring a roses around my living room, but we didn't care. I think we ended up at the patio with Toure at one point. God knows, but honestly, absolutely brilliant. Fans are in raptures, players celebrating. Gordon, as you said, sinks to his knees, arms in the air. Kieran Tierney comes running back just in time for to pick up the trophy. Face all over the place. Absolute Celtic man to the core. As our Tony would say, absolutely biblical.
Biblical, yes.
But the final whistle blows and history has been made. It's absolutely outstanding. A season to remember, a season you can tell your grandkids about. It's just epic. Just a couple of wee sort of stats. It was an invincible domestic treble. It was 47 games played, 43 wins, 4 draws, 0 losses, 134 goals for, 27 goals against, 106 league points amassed. An absolutely incredible achievement. I'll come to you first, Franny. Just sum up the entirety of that achievement. I know you, in terms of on the day, the cup final, but to sum up that, just one more time, sum up the entirety of that achievement in your own words, and then Stephen, just follow on for Franny.
Amazing, mate. It's just absolutely amazing when you actually think about the consistency to go a full season, league and cups, undefeated, have that level of consistency. It can't be taken for granted. I know Rodgers kind of made trebles and Norman stuff. A guy earlier put a great comment up saying how he'd won, obviously, the quadruple treble. To take away like 4 to go to win all the cups, like the League Cup 4 times, the Scottish Cup 4 times. I don't really know how many games that is over, but to do that over 4 seasons, it's absolutely amazing. But go back to the treble, it's just amazing just to win cups. It's amazing Celtic being successful. Like you said earlier, Ross, you always want Celtic to be successful because the only other option is Rangers being successful, and that's no worth bear thinking about. It's horrible if somebody else is winning the trophies. So to actually have a clean sweep of them, a clean sweep of doing it undefeated, it's magical, man. It's mental to actually think about that you managed to do that, and when I just think it's some fans maybe take it for granted. Some folk could be down to the media and stuff that they try to portray this image that Rangers weren't as good as maybe they have been in the past. Might not have been, but you've still got to. For me, that's maybe more a reason for complacency to kick in, that you didn't need to be at your optimum levels every game. But the fact that Celtic done it, Rodgers drilled into them, it's just fantastic. And as I said, I'm not going to have that as a barometer to sort of measure him going forward, but to think he done that then, it's just getting me excited to what's going to happen next.
Absolutely. Unbelievable. Stephen, just follow on for that.
Yeah, mate, it's an incredible achievement. Unbeaten domestic cups in the league, and them stats you read out are mind blowing. 106 points, over 100 odd goals. I mean, 47 games, 43 wins. Wow, what a rate of consistency. As I said, it's the momentum we built. It's the way we played. Franny rightly said, optimum levels every week. You reach it, you keep it there, you keep it going. And I think it been another excellent point, Franny. Complacency could have set in. We could have let our foot off the gas, but we didn't. We kept going till the end. We got the treble, and that laid the foundations for the years to follow. And the big man who done it, Big Brandy, he's home with his bag of cans. He's sitting with he's sitting with Peter Lawwell, chatting to him, being like, "If you cross me ever again, big man, you know what's going to happen, don't you?" But yeah, incredible achievement. Incredible players, and something for me personally. As I said, it was my favourite travel of them all by a country mile.
I think most would agree with that. It's one thing doing a treble, but to do a treble, you have to go unbeaten in the cups.
Yeah.
But to do a completely invincible treble, I don't think we'll ever see that again in our life. We'll see Celtic winning up like trebles again, but I don't think. You never know, but I think I'd be very, very surprised if I seen Celtic doing another invincible treble. But hopefully it's this season coming. But I mean, we've gave our thoughts on like how we felt on like achieving that. I just want to finish before we like say our goodbyes and stuff and our thank yous. I just want to finish on the manager's thoughts on what he was asked on the invincible achievement. So he said, it doesn't matter what league or what country, as a couple of you alluded to in the podcast. It is a remarkable achievement, and it's a symbol of the work that's gone in by the staff and the players on a daily basis to ensure the focus is maintained, because it's never easy. And any football manager or coach will tell you that even the best teams can have an off day. Also, what I find up here is the tactical challenge. We've played some teams 6 times this season, and what that does is give an opponent a chance to do something different against you, and gives a chance for them to maybe surprise you. And the likes of Pittodrie and Ibrox and Tynecastle are not easy places to go. So for the players to then come through that and meet every challenge put in front of them was incredible. On top of that, I think of the 6 games we played over the course of our Champions League campaign, when we returned from them, 5 of our domestic games were away from home, and that's never easy. Being away in Europe, coming back, and then going away from home. So we met that challenge as well. It was a remarkable effort by the players in terms of their concentration and commitment, and what we've tried to build in them is an emotional strength over the course of the season, so that no matter how they're feeling, they can really focus and concentrate on their work. That's just Brendan Rodgers in a nutshell, and I think we've sort of touched upon that briefly throughout the podcast, not realising that I was going to read that out. And I think brilliant way to finish the podcast, and I've really enjoyed doing it. It was a fair wee bit of work putting it together, but I enjoyed putting it out there for everybody, and I hope you have enjoyed it.
No, mate, it's been incredible. I've loved it. We've went literally for every part of the season. Unbelievable, mate, and some fantastic stats. I mean, you know, I like the stats. I love stats. And I really enjoyed it, and people have stuck with us. By the way, we've stayed around the 40, 41 mark, and everyone's getting involved. We appreciate that. We know it's been a long one, but Ross, great work, buddy. Unbelievable.
Aye, no, do you enjoy it, Franny?
Aye, superb, mate. Superb. It's always great looking back in some memories and stuff, and we've done ones before this, and it's probably done ones more fairly recent as well, but it's always good reminiscing about the good times and stuff, and I think it's quite poignant, quite topical. The man we're talking about his first season, just looking forward to his first season as in his second term. It's just kind of getting me remembering all the good times when he was first here is just getting me a lot more excited. Like as we've said, we were talking about how on board we were, I'm coming back. It's just getting me excited for I'm coming back again and getting started. I
know. Hopefully this is a wee sort of fueler to get everybody else feeling like that as well. And listen, next season can't come quick enough. I'm desperate to see. But no, I'm buzzing for next season. I can't wait to see what happens with this team. But Alright, cheers, mate. It took me about 5.5 hours all in, but it was well worth it, and I'm glad everybody seems to have enjoyed it.
The same amount of time you actually do it.
I know, and listen, and that's a fair point. And by the way, it would maybe have been better having this on a Friday night. I didn't realise it was going to go on as long, but listen, I'm glad. Thanks to everybody that stuck with us, and if you couldn't, then hopefully you'll get to watch the rest of it back at a later date. But listen, it's a different show for what we normally do, and we enjoy doing these rewinds. We need to probably do a wee bit more, but we've got another one coming up on Friday, Stephen. I don't know if you want to talk about that or if you're keeping it under wraps.
What one is it again?
Seville.
Yes, so yeah, wow. We're doing that. We're doing the Seville. No, because I thought that there was the thing, but yeah, we're doing a Seville rewind. We're going to really go in depth on that. Ross, you've got again some fantastic stuff that we're going to possibly listen to. We're going to have some montages and things like that, pictures and and goals and stuff of it. So we're going to relive them memories again with you guys with a few beers, and it's something we're all looking forward to, and we're looking forward to get stuck into it. It's been in the pipeline for a long time, so to get it out and get it done, I can't wait.
Mm-hmm. Brilliant. Well, that's it. Thanks again to everybody for sticking with us, and if you've enjoyed again what you've seen, then like, subscribe, and spread the word about the Endless Celts. Thanks very much. Night night. God bless. Love yous.